never the same.
I know, but we are live. Okay, so what happened? I don't know what happened. My computer went into time machine mode for no reason. I don't know if you have a Mac. It just chose that time to just do time machine. So
Yeah,
fuck it.
I don't have a Mac, but my Windows computer does Windows updates pretty much every time we have to record. There's always like Windows update. They want to shut it down for 48 minutes.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened. The whole thing just it rebooted, then it went to time machine mode, and then I have all these things that automatically start up when my computer starts up, and I should probably just figure out how to make that not happen. But trying to make it restart, I'm like, okay, let me get back in the chat into the live stream, and I just keep seeing booting up. I'm like, no, close, booting up, close. I had to go through like 10 programs and close those bad boys, but
Yeah,
we're all
there.
good.
Yeah, getting those initial apps to to get them getting those apps to stop running immediately when you start your computer does help it out quite a bit.
And the smart thing to do would be after we finish this is to go to all those apps, open them up, change the settings, make
Mhm.
it so that they won't start up next time, but I'll probably just go to sleep
Yeah,
and worry about it fresh the next time.
it's a
Cuz
problem you're comfortable dealing with.
yeah, exactly. Until I'm not comfortable dealing with it, and that's
Mhm.
how it goes. But you know what? I don't know how the last one went after I popped out, but let's just start fresh. What I was asking you was tell the people who don't know, because I know that everyone who watches your show watches mine or vice versa, even though there's a lot of overlap. So just give people the elevator pitch of what Street Fight is and who you are.
Well, we started as a podcast about 9 years ago. Me and my partner Brian Quinby. You may have seen him on Twitter. He's at Murder Brian. He posts all the time. I do more business stuff. But yeah, we started about 9 years ago, and a lot of the people that were into the show very early on were folks like Will Menaker and Felix and Dank Metal, and a lot of folks that ended up being like big time podcasters later on. So we were really lucky enough to get a lot of shine after Chapo Trap House launched. They told a bunch of people that they got their start listening to us.
How did
So
people find you? Was it just through like posting and stuff? Like what? Like how did people end up finding you?
I mean, it was mostly Twitter. I mean, very early Twitter before Obama, like pre 2012, Twitter was pretty close knit community. There was a lot of anarchist fighting. There was a lot of anarchists and like just radical people that were whipped up from Occupy Wall Street and were kind of trying to you know challenge liberalism, challenge Democrats, all of that stuff. And, they spent a lot of time attacking all of us. So we kind of created a community back then, that has stuck around for a very long time at this point, it seems like.
But how do you think it's like morphed? Because I have like a parallel type of thing. We always talk about how like Twitter used to be good, and something's different about it, and everyone kind of has a parallel story with their community. And I feel that way with Black Twitter. Like it's not what it used to be. It's I don't know if it's media people that changed it. I don't know if it's a lot of grifters. I don't know what it
Man,
is, but
I think screenshotting. Once people started screenshotting everybody, I got so self-conscious about what to put on there because like
yeah,
if you quote tweet me, even if you're fucked up about it, like I would still address what you said and kind of get past whatever like snarky internet shade you're trying to put on it.
yeah.
But like once it was like, people can misconstrue what I say and run away with this to their own little place and talk shit about me. I feel like that like affected me in a big way. Like that was a change in the culture for me.
One thing I like about how you guys are is like first I'll let you describe your politics. I'm not going to describe them for you, but like how would you describe your politics?
I mean, me and Brian, we very much started out as like hardcore anti-war people, fuck the government types. But we advocate for working people. We spend a lot of time trying to keep up with the news and the punditry and all of that. And I don't know if we're necessarily built for that. We were more guys that were like entertaining on smoke breaks at work. I mean, that's what we were good at before we started podcasting. So we've kind of moved into the space now where we have the call-in show once a week and we have working folks call in like the entire holiday season. They called in and told us the kind of bullshit holiday gifts they're getting or the cutbacks, you know that companies are doing. We covered an article about a company that used to give out like a popcorn tin, and instead now they gave out just a bottle of barbecue sauce. And this guy just said it was too much. He said he really enjoyed the gift sausage and the gift popcorn, but going down to a bottle of hot sauce was just too much. Which is like, I understand. Like, we talk about those moments, I guess, just on the ground, working people stuff. Our politics are based, just around, spreading more power to more people and away from the people that are in charge. And really, honestly, I mean, we're very idealistic and really want a post America utopia without all the baggage and bullshit that we're dealing with right now.
But you know what I think about too is there's a lot of politics out there that's kind of eggheady. It talks about a lot of theory, alienating stuff. And Kenny, we were talking about that, like the infamous episode of Bill Fletcher, which is also one of our most popular ones. But we talked about that a lot. And one thing I like about you guys try to keep everything down to earth as far as everything you guys talk about. But do you guys ever feel pressure to kind of change how you do that stuff? Start reading a bunch of like theory, getting.
Well, no, not really. And Brian did actually go to college for sociology during our podcast. I was living in Washington D.C. at the time, and Brian went to the Ohio State University for a sociology degree. So we talked a lot about a lot of the SJW stuff. He was in all of those classes, as you know. I mean, as recent as like 2000, I guess 13 or 14. So not long ago, and he just really didn't want. He wanted to go to college and get a degree just because people told him he would never succeed at that. He could never be good at school. But we never wanted to make it. We never wanted to make this into something that it isn't authentically us. And pretending to do all the theory stuff and have it down and kind of give a solution to people is not what we're offering. We do want to make it a more down to earth understanding of the world. And we do. We're also playing around. We're trying to make it fun, but we all, at the end of the day, I don't. There's no pressure, because when we do live shows and people come up and talk to us, they're like, I really love what you do. And, this is an amazing Marxist concept that you were talking about on the show last week. Did you guys mean to do that or whatever? And I'm like, I mean, not really. We just understand that everybody's getting stolen from in the same way, so I guess there's no pressure to go egghead on it at all. I think that we would lose our people's champ spot if we did that.
How did you and Brian know each other?
We actually met through podcasting in a weird way. I had one with my friends. Like I said, I had some guys at work that I used to hang out with, that were really big into like horror movies and punk rock and all that stuff. So I had this old ass podcast called Relatively Unknown, and it was all based around the idea of covering and talking about like these media things that are gigantic amongst the people that know them, but the general public has no idea any of it's going on. So I was doing that for a few episodes, and my girlfriend at the time, her brother knew somebody that was doing a podcast with Brian and said, "Hey, this guy's podcasting too." I mean, this was back in like 2008, maybe 2007. So it was very early in the game of podcasting.
Yo, you guys are like early adopters because people were still like blogging. Like blogging was still hanging around at
Yeah,
that time.
oh, absolutely. I was still reading blogs, but I was I mean, I got the Microsoft Zune just because I was an Apple hater at the
Holy
time.
shit! I forgot about that thing. Yo, how much shit did Microsoft try and fail at? Did you ever fuck with the Microsoft Zoom, Kenny?
Oh yeah.
You did.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
you
I know
know it.
Microsoft Zoom. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Kenny's a tech and music guy. So I know someone's gonna try to Zoom. I know it'd be you. Man.
Oh
I
yeah.
tell, I
Oh
tell
yeah.
you, the Zune, man, was the only the iPad. I'm sorry, the iPod. You had to like connect to something to watch the videos. The Zune would let you watch a whole movie on like a 2-inch
Yes.
screen. So I
Yes.
would be at work, like driving the forklifts, and I would take it like all the way to the sky, and I would sit down with my Zune and watch like some cam of a movie on like a 1.5-inch screen or
It
whatever it
sounds
was.
kind of cool, actually. Like I
And you
like
know, in
I didn't try the Zune because I was so used to Microsoft and Sony dropping products that would just disappear.
right.
So I started doing this shit where I would just wait to see if it lasted, which probably didn't help because a lot of other people probably did the same thing. Like they just wait and see if it lasts, and then it didn't.
I mean, it was still the same. It was still the same content creators though. And back then, there was a dock that hooked up to the TV, so you could take your Zune, throw it on the dock, and there were video podcasts back then. So I was watching video podcasts like Zini Jordan from Boing Boing. Like I was watching her a decade ago when she was just doing a show in like a living room. I was tuning in to get like alternative coverage of video games and like all this weird media that just felt at the time like groundbreaking, because these were people that didn't have a big budget, and these were people that were creating stuff with the same equipment that I had available at the time. So I think back at that time, back then, I kind of saw what was happening and was like, man, if people want to hear regular folks talk on the air, I'm totally willing to do that. Like that was what got me into podcasting, was like, I can shoot this shit for so long. It's like the only thing I've been good at.
The whole podcasting thing, I didn't even hear about it till like late in the game. And then in the beginning, it was kind of cool, like it was a wild, wild west kind of thing. But now it's like really corporate. It's very like I'm worried it's gonna become like the uh what blogs became, because not now a blog is basically the New York Times blog, the Huffington Post blog, where it's basically like it's
Yeah.
just like what makes this a blog? This is just a corporate website that's a little more informal than
You're giving them their opinion or whatever.
yeah,
Remember,
yeah,
I
but
was telling you that with a lot of podcasts, because remember we were talking about how to, with podcasting when it comes to sports, we were talking about like the more mainstream sports like football, basketball, and I was like, dude, it's really pointless because ESPN and all those other corporations have pretty much like
corner the
dog piled
market.
on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Like sports podcasts, a big chunk of them are like Disney owned. Like there was this
Yeah,
idea it was gonna be a democratizing thing, and what you described, the early podcasting, sounds like what the early blog thing was, which was really
yeah,
cool. But now, like, if you have like a solo blog, you're almost like a crackpot. You're almost like the Unabomber now if you have a solo blog. But I remember people used to have fucking like 20 blogs they read. Used to put them in Google Reader, and they used to be like dope as shit. And
RSS feed. I mean, the RSS feed for podcasting came from blogging. That came from me having all of my blogs and wanting like 20 of them just funneled right into my fucking feed.
I think the death of Google Reader did a lot to kill blogs. But like, um, a lot of my friends they'll tell me like, "Oh, we listen to podcasts." I'm like, "What podcast do you listen to?" And I'm thinking they'll tell me about the scrappy, cool podcast, and they'll be like, "Oh, I listened to this one by Slate, listen to this one by New York Times," and I'll listen to it. I'm like, "This is just like fucking 2020 or Dateline. This is
yeah.
the
NPR or some shit.
dude.
Yeah.
That's that house style. I fucking hate it. I tried to listen to the 1619 podcast, which is about slavery and stuff." And I'm like, oh, let me give this a shot. And the thing was so overproduced. Like, do you need a musical cue for every 10 seconds? Like, I know how my emotions work. I don't need to know, like, okay, someone got lynched. I know it's sad. You don't need to hear
like being in church, they start playing an organ when somebody's about to die, and John was lynched on this tree. They start playing an organ and shit.
I'm like, what kind of fucking sociopaths do you have listening that they need a musical cue to feel bad that someone got lynched? You know what I'm saying?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, but I do in a way. I think that stuff was happening even back then. Like when I told people I listened to podcasts or that I did a podcast and showed them the app, the first thing they would do would be like, oh, I got all the NPR stuff. Thanks for showing me those podcasts. I got all my NPR stuff, or I got all the BBC radio stuff. Like they were still very early on in the game. But now, I mean, it does feel like there was a boom at a certain point, and I was never really nervous about it because I really feel it like when it comes down to your level of talent, I mean, that will honestly decide who listens to you in the end. Like there's 100 fucking people that tried to start a podcast like Street Fight in the last year, and most of them gave up because they didn't care enough or they were copying
Mhm.
somebody else's plan. But those are the I'm kind of surprised that the next class of podcasts is very, very small. You know, like for me, like Beep Beep Lettuce and Minion
Oh, they're
Death
pretty
Call,
good. I did the show, yeah.
Minion Death Call, and you know, the those like those podcasts that have come in the wake have not been plentiful. They've not been enough to shut down or take away from what we're doing. You know, I feel like it's getting like the reach is there, and the people that are good at doing it are the ones that get the views, you know.
I think a lot of people want like instant kind of results too, and if it doesn't happen, like they don't
You
really.
me and
And
Brian.
you can only be so ironic. Like there's a lot of people who it's fun to make an irony Twitter or edgelord type of account or some kind of weird type of account that has no personality, and you can get kind of popular. But for a podcast, there's a level of transparency where you're gonna have to actually be somebody at some point, you know. And
Oh, and I mean, we didn't ask for money for the first 5 years that we podcasted. This was a hobby for us. This was me and Brian doing our thing because we wanted to do entertainment, and this was a great outlet for us. So it's wild to me that folks, you know, are recording 2 podcasts and then asking for bonus money when it's like you're not even that seasoned as a podcaster. You know, the first 3 to 5 years of this, you're an amateur. And after we hit that 5 year, 6 year mark, and then we got the other people to pay attention to us, we were at the professional level, not because anybody said we were professionals, but just because we had kept at it for that long. Like that is what made us successful, is that we never gave up, you know. Like
yeah,
there's so many podcasts that don't make it 1 year. There's so many podcasts that don't make it, what I always say, past the 5th episode. There are people that want me to do the 3rd or 4th episode of their podcast. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I will be there next year. And if that's not a good enough answer, I don't believe you want to do a podcast. You know,
I'm
like if you don't plan on being here in a year, grinding out, doing the same shit, then it's not worth my time.
I'm laughing because you talked about like being at it for a couple of years and asking for money, and we asked for money a couple months in, and then I've recently been re-listening to old episodes because I wanted to start over again and just kind of redo the show notes and kind of do whatever, and like I want to put a lot of the stuff on YouTube, better show notes. And I was listening, I was like, wow, it sounded like shit. Like we had some audacity fucking asking anybody for money, man. Like
I can, if
it
somebody
sounded
like,
terrible.
I mean, if the best troll that anybody could ever do for me would be show up and play a podcast from 2009 and make me listen, like play it out
Ooh.
loud in front of a crowd. I would just shrivel. Like I would run out of the room. I couldn't imagine going back and
Oh,
listening to some of that old stuff, you know?
it was fucking awful. And you know, it's
But
weird. I was wondering, like, a lot of fans didn't tell me how bad it was. Like, there was one episode where every time because I was so bad at editing, I would just give up. I was like, you know what, this is done. I'm just gonna put it up there. If it's bad, someone will tell me. And I was re-listening, and then there was one episode where every time I spoke, it was staticky, and it was a popular episode. And I'm like, I put on Twitter, like, why did no one say it? And they're like, oh, we just figured you knew. you
yeah.
know, so
Shit, yeah, right.
So that, I mean, and that's what's great about it. I mean, people are so forgiving when it comes to creating, and I'm in the same boat as you, where I do not want this thing to become internet sales. Like I don't want to just be like online trying to figure out how to catch people to get them into like my money funnel, you know? And that's how you lose. I mean, that is how you lose the game, is when you start focusing on the money, when you start focusing on the marketing. That's not why people want to see you. Like you have to be
Right.
able to perform. You have to be able to be in it because you want to create fun stuff. You know, me and Brian got into this because it was like blue collar dudes do not get a chance to be comedians. Like Larry the Cable Guy is a fucking fake. And
oh yeah. Please
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
my
that.
yeah.
Please talk about that because I didn't know that. Like
yeah, I mean, this came
super
out late.
fake.
I mean, here's the thing: the internet exposes you too. I mean, like the internet exposes you. He got caught. There's an old video of him from like the 1980s where he's wearing like a teal silk shirt, you know, and he's doing all of these different voices, but he looks like Dave Coulier from Full House. And
Yeah, and his
he's
whole
not a
thing
fictional
is
guy at all.
it's fucking crazy. Oh,
It's
by the way, Donnie Knight is in the chat, and he's actually not listening. He's an OG listener. He's listening to all our episodes that had technical problems. R.I.P. Mike. He says Buffalo Bob Mike episodes. Remember Buffalo Bob from Silence of the Lambs?
Yes,
Buffalo
I mean,
Bill.
Buffalo
Oh yeah,
Bill.
oh yeah, Buffalo Bill, and he's like, I put the lotion on. For some reason, Mike's whole thing sounded like Buffalo Bill. Um, so so the whole thing, he's like talking at slow speed. He's like, "Hello, everybody." We had like
Oh,
fucking
we
2 hours.
had some really messed up ones where my voice would just sound like Darth Vader.
Yeah,
Like it would just go into like some really weird demonic sounding shit. And I still don't know why that was, but we were manipulating the app to begin with. Like they were saying that you weren't supposed to be able to use um the
the phone.
TriCast on your phone. I was doing it on my phone.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we were like doing things that the creators of the application didn't even know you could do. Like they literally said you couldn't do it, but I was doing it for a whole year.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
this is what happened, right? I don't know what's going on with your computer, but he was doing the podcast from his phone. So
Yeah.
we have all these crazy problems. And then finally I wrote the makers of the app. I was like, why does our co-host have all these problems? He sounded like Darth Vader, he's dropping out. And they're like, well, what is he doing? Is he on a Mac or a PC? And I said, well, actually he's on his phone. And it's like our app doesn't work from the phone. And it's like,
But how many episodes did we complete though?
a whole year's worth
Plenty.
of episode. Yeah. They didn't even know that like he found a way to hack, like, so that's why it sounded so bad. He found a way to use it in a way the app wasn't even supposed to work. We had a year of him doing it on the phone and it wasn't even supported. And the guy in tech support was like, that works. So it was discovery to him. He didn't even know.
Yeah, he probably got a bonus for reporting a loophole
Right.
in software. Yeah, rest in power, Mike. That's hilarious.
Yeah, for real. Rest in power, Mike, man, for real. Yeah. What was your worst mishap you guys had?
I mean, we still have them. It's funny to talk to y'all about this because it's like we just had it this week where we have this incredible piece of equipment that, like, when you look at the box, it says you should be able to do all this stuff with sound, and then you plug it in, and it just shits the bed like once a month. I mean, just this week we had it. We had the Focusrite set up, and it looks like it's recording everything. We go and record 2 shows and get nothing out of it. Like the guest audio isn't there at all.
With the guest. Oh,
yes, with the
that
guests.
sucks.
So yeah, and that's the thing is, like, podcasting, when you have to redo a show with a guest and you're all just pretending like this is the first time you've all heard these stories and little
And never feel the same.
anecdotes and stuff.
Yeah.
Never feel ashamed. You're right. Don't give a fuck.
Oh god. Yeah, but you know what? I said never feels the same, but fuck it. Never feels the shame.
Feel ashamed. Yes.
Yeah, that works too. That's a good. I'm gonna tat that one on. But no, like when you redo it, it never feels the same. Like you try to react it, and you always convince yourself the original version was the fucking best thing you ever did. Like when you lose something, like Mario and I lost a show twice. We had this old system. I don't want to blow them up because maybe they got better. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
But
that's fair.
what was actually no? Fuck it, I'll blow them up. It was on Zencaster. That thing, and it was just a mess. And we lost 2 episodes in a row. I think that's when we finally just gave up on Zencaster. But we lost 2 episodes in a row, and to this day, in my mind, those 2 were like the best we did. They could have been shit, but just because I can't re-listen to it and it's gone, I'm imagining that they killed.
Yeah, there's been, that's just part of it. You have to keep moving along. It's like that can't be enough to get you to stop. And that's what happens with some things. Like I said, with those people the people that start a podcast and are like, oh no, we lost one. What are we gonna do? And it's like, start all over. Just do it again.
Do it all over again. Yep.
Nothing else to do it. Then just do it
I've
again.
recorded it was me and someone else I recorded, and I don't know what happened, but it recorded my track and her track, and I couldn't find hers, and I had to like dig for it, and then I had to sync it together, and I mean it worked.
Oh, that's what matters at the
Right.
end. But even if it
Yeah,
doesn't,
right.
like what are you gonna do, man?
Yeah, do it over again. Me and Mario did a really good one, and at the end it just dropped and it was gone,
Yeah.
just gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Fuck, dude."
I
So
mean,
I mean,
at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know. I try. I think that like I don't know what exactly we're trying to accomplish with our show or anything, but I feel there is a positive impact. You know, when we travel around the country and do live shows and get to meet people, there's a lot of folks that are doing activism and are out in the streets because of the show that we do. So being able to reach people like this and understanding that they don't care, like even with selfies and stuff, like I love it that like kids will take pictures of themselves with like four chins and like pimples all over their face and like I think that like it's just been a great breakthrough in media where now like I desperately want a big budget to do one like a TV type thing, but I could also just record a skit on my phone and have just as get feel get just as much response or even more than Saturday Night Live does or something.
I say one thing I like about you guys is you guys are both somehow simultaneously very I don't give a fuck, but very ambitious and professional at the same time. It's a hard thing to I mean, I feel like we try to do that ourselves too, where we kind of, we want to like, be professional and do whatever and get good guests, do whatever. But we also if we want to put something up and it's just us talking about fast food or whatever, it's just like whatever.
Yeah, agree. I mean, me and Brian, I mean, we are trying to get people in just through, not through like convincing them with theory or logic or anything, but just like, this is my attitude. We need to liberate working people. And also, here's what I think of the new Avengers movie. It's like it's just it makes it just mixing it all up and trying to just be somebody that's open and honest and not the leader. Like we're not trying to be the leader of anything. I don't think that like we're going to convince everybody to make the United States a better place and I'm going to be in charge of that. Like we don't put ourselves on a pedestal as like any sort of prescription to solve things, but we do create a place that is for working class dudes like us, that is also very open and accepting and uh forgiving and emotional and like all of the stuff that we want to see in the world, but we're just trying not to say it out loud. Like I desperately don't want to say that we're trying to be better. We just want to make it look effortless and cool,
What,
but we are, we're working on it. And we are, like me and Brian have a great dynamic because we are two sides of the coin where I think I have a more focused approach and Brian is very much succumbs to his own foibles, but that also is a part of being alive and it's part of being, that's a big part of the audience that listens to us knows what it's like to be Brian and be like, I only have $100 in the bank. I'm just going to spend it all so that way I don't have to worry about keeping it, just some,
yeah.
that spending the last of your money instinct or gambling when you don't have it.
But people can identify with that. But you know what? I wonder sometimes, right? Like, what happens when that becomes your quote unquote brand? Like, does Brian ever feel like, yo, I've got to tell a crazy story? Like, like
Yeah.
I had a really responsible week. What's people expecting me to fucking have some
Yeah.
antics? Yeah.
Yeah, we've always viewed it as a learning process. I mean, we still feel like we're trying to unlearn a lot of the shit that that inspires us. Brian has been even like, it's probably like I said, the dude has a motherfucking degree in sociology and he
Yeah.
could talk to you about Foucault and he could talk to you about like all of this fucking critical race theory shit, all of that. He can do it. But he is spending his time like investigating shock jocks and Kid Rock, and I think it's a lot of the stuff that makes the bedrock of like that the macho kind of white guy attitude and the working class. And you know going through Shocktober and talking about Howard Stern, talking about Opie and Anthony, talking about Mancow, like those guys were never swinging a hammer. They were never working class. They're treated as like working class icons. But Howard
Mhm.
Stern never did anything that where he broke a sweat in his life,
Yeah.
so we are, in a way we are coming it from a direction of coming from knowing, like we did warehousing. Brian was actually Brian the cable guy is a real thing. He actually did cable. It's not a bit like Larry. So like that's what we're like trying to transcend, is just to be the authentic, working person that we are, and not try to appease, the upper crust or whoever it is we're supposed to prove that we're smart to.
But like what I'm talking about is like at some point, even though you're a person, I think if you do anything like this long enough, you become a character, like
Oh
whether you
yeah.
want to or not. And that's what I mean.
Mhm.
Like people start expecting, like people expect Kenny at some point to say presentism at least once a
Yeah,
month,
yeah,
like
yeah.
like they want. But like
I-
you know how on shows people get a punchline and Urkel's like, did I do that? Or it's like what you talk about Willis. Like people get excited now if Kenny says presentism. Like people
Yeah.
will be in the Discord, they'll be like, "Yo, Kenny dropped presentism." Like, like look forward to it now. And I start wondering, like,
No,
yeah, go on.
no, I've definitely had that thought. I mean, how long have you been at it now? 5
It's
or
been
6?
like what? No,
More?
no, it's like
3 years, 4 years,
years, two,
3
two,
No,
years.
3 years.
way.
Yeah, it's been pretty.
2016, 3 years.
Yeah, that's it. 2016. Yeah, wow, it is
Okay.
3 years, isn't it? Yeah, we only have like 230 episodes. It's
Man,
weird to say only.
my
What?
God, yeah, that's so much to listen to.
Yeah, I
That's a
know,
lot.
but you guys have like God knows how many.
Yeah, we do have 9 years of that garbage.
Do
Whew, shit, that's a lot.
I kind of regret numbering. Do you guys
But-
number yours?
No, we don't number them. We just put them by the date now.
That's better because when it gets really a lot, it's gonna sound crazy to say episode 1000.
There's some podcasts I've listened to
Right.
that do number them, and they started back in 2006, and now they do have like thousands of episodes up, and it's pretty interesting when they talk about the numbers that they're hitting. It's just really hard to believe to live alongside somebody like that for so long. I mean, some of my podcasting people, I've been listening to that podcast since 2007, so 12 years now that I've been listening to some of my stuff. It's pretty incredible. And I honestly like I don't talk about it much, but I do like, I mean, we are not making an incredible amount of money doing Street Fight. Even though the Patreon says that, it's not like me and Brian split in half. We got like a staff, and we're paying to send zines in the mail to people. We're paying artists to do things for us and all of that. But like, I do think like I have had like a conundrum recently of like being like, I have to be likable now to keep my money coming in, like, can I change? I am open to what? And I do have faith. I think that people are along for the ride. I think that I've stumbled, and I've even said some like mean or negative, or let people know that I was in a bad mood or depressed about, what I was doing. And people came in and, they understood it a lot more than what I had imagined in my head. But I mean, I had the same thing where I had the same issue with like Brian and me when we first started. There was very much a unified front. We were trying to be like these Midwestern guys that like square cut pizza and that wear boots and jeans. And it was very much a full force punch in the face, trying to punch through and get people to pay attention. But as it moved along, like I really wanted for myself to get away from some of the dogmatic leftist thinking that happens online. Like, I just didn't want to be involved with parroting back like what the most popular opinion of the day was. And like, I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to just say how I really felt about stuff, and then I was going kind of being I was worried that I was being funneled into a way of, or like a safe area of topics or a safe way of thinking. But I have spent a lot of more time doing my own thing, and really received no pushback from the people that listen to the show.
Like I feel like this is an interview, and I'm like, if we're gonna do something on YouTube, it's got to be something different than the podcast, right? Like I feel like for example, you guys have your YouTube is actually different than the podcast, right? You don't just make a live film version of the podcast, but do something different, or it's every podcast episode on the YouTube. Like what do you guys?
Yeah, we stream all of our recordings straight to YouTube.
Oh, so you stream them all now. So what's
Yeah.
on the RSS is now on the podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
now on the YouTube as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the yeah. I mean that's really the way to do it. You just have to. The video aspect of it reaches people on YouTube that we would never get, and then we can just pull the audio and deliver it to the podcast the way that people are used to. So
Yeah, I gotta figure this out because we talk about this. Kenny, Kenny, me, Mario, we always talk about this and try to figure out like how to I guess we gotta see what the fans like too. But hey, the word like parasocial has been like very popular lately. This idea of like people don't just consume this because they want information or whatever. Like people kind of want like friends. You know what I'm saying? Like people want um connection, and it's kind of interesting to me because like right now we're in an era where people are watching people eat. Like there's a girl
Yeah.
just streaming herself eat, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, why does this girl have like a million hits? And I realized, wow, somebody's probably eating by themselves. They want, uh someone to eat with, you know what I'm saying? And
But that's I don't want to say it's crazy. I don't want to say it.
I mean,
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's a sane reaction to a crazy world. I think the world is crazy.
Yeah, the world is crazy, man. The world is fucking
the world
crazy.
is alienating everybody and has people working all day, has people like stuck somewhere. Someone said if Kenny ever tries to be likable, I'm checking out.
I mean,
but
I might be too. Maybe I'm too positive about it, but like, I mean, before this, literally it was just like an old man sitting in his house all by himself. I mean, the just even the illusion of sitting down with somebody and the ability to reach out to someone, I think probably is an improvement in quality of life in that way, possibly.
What do you mean? No. I think there is something positive to it, but I also think people are kind of losing something at the same time. Like, but it's always been there. People have always tuned into Late Night with Johnny Carson and watched cool conversations. I'm not saying it's all bad.
No, for sure. But
go
ahead, Kenny. Jump in there.
No, there's a perfect analogy that I heard someone say. I don't remember who said it. It was a long time ago, but they said like in the world that we live in right now, people, in the morning you get up and you go to work. You don't see them all day. They come home before they get to the driveway. They open the garage. They go inside. The garage goes down. You don't see them for the rest of the day. You know what I mean? But if you go on Facebook, you'll see them motherfuckers on there, or they're on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't even see them outside cutting the grass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or how about you texting somebody and you're like, damn, they're not texting me back. And you go on Twitter and they're just tweeting up a storm. It's like, motherfucker, man. What are you doing? Your phone is in your fucking hand, man.
Right.
My email.
It's just a weird world we're in now.
Yeah, I mean, it is a change. I mean, there is human beings and like communication is being changed on the fly right now. We have no idea what the implications are going to be, but I think the connectivity is beneficial in that, it's very hard. It was very hard for them to sell that Iran bullshit that just happened with the missiles.
Oh yeah.
So many people on social media were immediately just like, fuck all that noise. Like it was just a very unpopular thing. It was even, several 100,000 people in the street, back in 2003 wasn't enough. But I think that it has allowed more people to get connected, and offers a place for folks to feel a sense of community. I think like the wild thing is being on the other side of it. Me being on this side of the parasocial relationship is where I get in my own fucking feelings and fuck myself up. Like I don't know
how so.
Like I don't know what my impact is. I don't want to overshoot it. I know that it's there. People are telling me that I'm wonderful and I'm doing these amazing things for them. But then to me, it's like, am I doing it for my own gain? It's hard to know who benefits from it. But there's thousands of people that are tuning into what we do.
Yeah.
But I just, I guess in a way it feels, narcissistic. It just is
I think anything that you do is narcissistic that requires, like, I think just getting on social media, on Twitter.
Oh, you got to be a narcissist to be on Twitter. Definitely.
To some degree. Like, I mean, I've made peace with it. I think everyone has something.
I mean,
level of
I
it.
think it has updated communication though. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely ruined some lives.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Every facet of existence has ruined somebody's lives. But it's
Yeah.
also I think it's made us a lot softer, caring, kinder. I think it's elevated the truth. You know, Columbus Day I think got fucking shut down because of social media. I don't
Oh,
think
I
that
believe that.
any mayor could have just ignored all the folks saying call it Indigenous Peoples Day, but like I think social media shut that shit down, you know?
Yeah, I
I
definitely, I definitely believe that.
Yeah, I've been saying lately like that. I think social media is a force amplifier. So if you have a good group or a good community online, it's gonna make that good group better. But if
Yeah.
you're like a fucked up toxic group, it's just gonna amplify
Well, and there's a
that.
lot more of those motherfuckers than there is of everybody else.
That to me is the problem. You have to keep yourself insulated from that group, but I feel like that group is just getting bigger and bigger.
You
Like,
can't, dude.
because right now, I feel like Brett, I don't see you online that much. So I think you have something good going on. So you're able to see the good because you're going in. But like Kenny got off, and I'm trying to phase my way off, right? But what's happening is if I'm on too much, I'm just seeing too many just dumb toxic
Toxic
takes,
shit. Yeah.
toxic shit. And I'm like, I sick of having to see all this shit to get to the good stuff. But then what's a problem is happening now is a lot of the people I used to count on for good stuff are reacting to something toxic. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I'm like, I'm seeing it anyway, even if it's you dunking on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even you
Right.
dunking on
Yeah,
it.
you gotta dig through a barrel of dog shit just to get to a gold coin.
Yeah, that's why you know what I always like. I have this great game I play with myself where like someone fucks up once or like says something stupid or does a bad retweet, and I'll just unfollow them immediately, and then I'll just
Yeah, yeah,
cackle.
yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just cackle out loud as I do it. It's like you got to win. You got to win me back. You got to figure out a way to get back in my feed.
Man.
But
That's a
yeah, I
good
mean,
way.
I have cut out a lot of nonsense stuff. I still get something. I mean, I have tried to restrict what I do, but I also realize that like the communication is very powerful and being able to talk to folks, even if it's one-sided. You know, we are still open, like in the DMs and in the email and all that stuff. People can get a hold of me, and I think folks have just ran with our message and done a lot of great things with that. You know, like our listeners created a mutual aid fund that redistributed about $11,000 last year. Basically, everybody donated a bunch of money to what was called the shoe box, and then we had folks that needed like an extra month, some extra money, like a payday advance. They got to borrow money from the shoebox, like no questions asked, just take money out of it.
See, that's really good. That's like an
And
actual
Mhm.
real world use besides just hearing yourself talk. That's good.
and
Yeah.
we don't, you know, like we are not out there trying to be like, we're not scolding people about like trans rights or anything. We're not scolding people about feminism. But like when it comes down to the shows, like the people that show up is a diverse crowd of folks that like represent what we do and just get it. You know, like I'm just grateful that even though I can't explicitly tell them what to do, like they have been activated in a way that I feel like has done more good. They're doing Planned Parenthood or escorting. They're doing Food Not Bombs. Like the people that listen to the show, we've actually been able to turn them into like actively politically engaged people. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like that's what I don't want to lose. I mean, in the same way, like it also fucks your money up. Like if I'm trying to like maintain people or sell shirts or whatever, and that's my focus, like I'm going to lose because I'm not going to have the passion of getting more people actively engaged or involved. I'm going to lose out on that. I mean, it really comes down to loving the work and trying to, you know, reach out to the people that are willing to listen to you. And, you know, then the money comes next,
Yeah.
you
Like
know?
I like the parasocial aspect to a certain degree and stuff, but there's a certain type of parasocial fan that just kind of gets on my nerves. And by that I mean, and I understand it because you listen to somebody enough times, you just feel like the fourth person in the room or whatever. But there's some people who their idea of getting your attention is not to fawn over you, but it's like I'm gonna bust your chops like I'm your boy.
I'm a dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
then
one of
this
the
gets
guys.
yeah, so they get super comfortable. It's like they'll be like that's why you suck a bunch of cocks last night. It's like hey, I don't know you like that. Like
Yeah,
that's
we
just
don't
way
play
too.
like that on the show.
Yeah, I'm like, huh? Like and I'm like, and I'll think to myself, like, do I know this dude? Like this is a friend of
I
mine
don't
playing
even
a
fucking
prank.
know who this dude is. What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, is this like a friend of mine playing a joke? And I realized, oh, this is in his mind. He's like, it took me a while to start realizing that this is just this guy's idea of bonding. Like he thinks that's like cool. So then after a while, I was like, okay, I don't take it like personal, but people would just come up with some weird, crazy, out of left field joke.
And
And when I was new to like the podcasting, I just been thinking, okay, what the fuck was that?
yeah, there's lots of also, it's like people that listen to the show, but then DM you about every single episode. And it's like, I mean, I don't offer like one-on-one service to the podcast. I would
You're
like
doing
to.
podcasts and you almost turn into people's therapists.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you do, you help you help people get through things. And, we do have a lot of folks that come through, but like, I'm not against people reaching out and saying, hey, this helped me or this or that. But there are people, you find that there's somebody that has like subscribed to the Patreon. They went above and beyond, added extra money. They order every single shirt. You've never met them in your life. You have no
Yeah.
idea. And then the person that just listens to the free podcast is like
Oh.
trying to get your
Yeah.
phone number and text you about their personal life.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I'm built. I am really built for that. I mean, I think that me and Brian, like at the end of the day, and a lot of us are willing to listen to stories and chop it up. And like, I don't have a lot of preconceived notions about what to expect from somebody, because I've heard a million different things come out of somebody's mouth at this point. Like I have no idea what you're going to say next. And I'll just sit there and I treat everybody, I give everybody the same reverence. But then, it's just the folks that don't understand that, like, if you're doing a performance and you're cutting jokes and stuff like that, I have no idea what I said the moment I'm done recording. You know what I mean? Sometimes
I swear, how many times I've told T that many a times, like he'll ask me something about something we talked. I'm like, dude, once we're done recording, I don't remember anything. And I've had people on Twitter ask me about episodes. I'm like, I don't even remember when was this.
That happens to
3
me
months
too.
ago. I'm like, fuck, dude, good luck, man.
But I have a generally bad memory about things that I'm supposed to remember. So something that like that is normal to forget about. By the way,
that's how I was at work though. Like whenever I clocked out, I was like done for the day. I'm not thinking about this at all. I'm done.
Donnie Knight in the mentions. Shout out to Gavin, Isaac K, Donnie Knight. Thanks for joining us. Donnie Knight said, people keep telling me bullying is bad, but I see Ben Shapiro or people in Kenny's mentions and think we took anti-bullying too far. I think, yes, there's some truth to that, man. Some people needed to be bullied and it didn't happen, man.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I had some issues with this when I don't know if this is not related. I don't know if you know about this at all, but AEW is a new wrestling company that got started started doing weekly live wrestling that competed with the WWE, and they started.
Is this the one that Cody Stardust was?
Cody Rhodes, yes.
Cody Rhodes. I saw this for the first time last week by accident. I was on vacation in Florida, and when you don't know your own TV and lineups, you can't find the channels. So I stumbled on it, and I don't actually watch wrestling. This thing was pretty good. It was really good. Like, and I don't particularly like wrestling, but it has this kind of, I can't explain. You know it better than I do, so you can tell me. I don't know what it is, but I liked it, and I don't like WWE.
It has a very modern touch to it. I think that's all that it is. Is that like there's like a parkour guy. There's lots of punk rock people.
It feels less try hard. I'll say that.
All the people are very, very well versed in social media. They've got like YouTube channels. It honestly just feels like very natural, modern thing. And so I went on Twitter and was just like, fuck WWE, it's AEW for life. Just being completely unfair. I called like WWE like people that worked in Trump's cabinet, because Vince McMahon's wife is in there. But AEW is owned by some like fucking overseas billionaire too. That's a piece of shit. But I was just being unfair. Like it's to me, it was like a sports thing. And I had 3 or 4 people that were just like, Brett, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep watching WWE. And I'm like, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
do whatever you want.
I'm not actually mad at
They
you.
don't owe you anything.
I'm full of shit. I don't know what I'm talking about at all. I'm just ribbing you. Like I do come from a background of like, oh, you said something fucked up about me. Well, I got something fucked up to say about you then. Like going back and forth was a part of like my existence. That is the anti-bullying is like a very stark change, because even Brian's daughter is 15 now. She's in high school. And she's talked to us a lot. We do a special show with her, or an extra show, bonus show called Street Teen Fight with her. But she is very much raised in the anti-bullying culture, and that like kids that try to pick on people those are the ones that are ostracized.
I've heard that. Like other kids will actually not like you.
Not vibe. They say you're like not vibing.
Yeah. You're not vibing right now. My daughter says that.
Yeah, because like because you're pointing out somebody's flaws or making it uncomfortable for somebody. But it is like that is a generational gap where I am trying to ride the line, because I remember much harsher times myself.
Oh fuck. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that made it like with Twitter. I mean, I've been booted on and off of Twitter. I don't know how many damn times. I just gave up after a while. And it wasn't really anything I was doing. It's just that
no, Katie's arguments are really funny, man.
I just like to have fun.
Yeah. If there was a way to monetize Katie's arguments, like just have people pay to watch Katie argue, I think our Patreon would double it. Like just like you gotta film Katie having an argument and then let people, because Katie arguments are just so fucking funny. Like
set up some public debates.
Oh yeah, not even a debate, just an argument. I feel like a debate
is just an argument.
Yeah. This ain't debating. This is arguing.
It's arguing.
This is a straight, because the thing, like you said, like I'm 38, so I was raised in the 80s where you had to kind of like you don't want to. You're not being malicious. It's just who's wittier than the next person.
That's
really all it is. I'm not gonna just come up and be like, oh, you a bitch, and I'm not gonna do all that. You know what I mean? But I will say some funny shit that you're gonna be like, this son of a bitch. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, I get suspended on Twitter for 2 weeks.
But you wanna know what's funny, right? A lot of times Kenny and I will be tag teaming in an argument, but Kenny always gets booted. But I think what happens is once you get booted or suspended, you're like kind of like on the watch list, so people are just ready, and. Yeah, so I think because Kenny got suspended like once or twice, so it'd be like me and him will be arguing with somebody, and suddenly Kenny disappeared. He'll text me, "I got booted." I'm like, "Fuck again!" Like,
why the fuck they keep booting me, but they never boot T? He's never been suspended on Twitter before.
You gotta ride the line.
Yeah, but oh my god, no, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what talking about at the top of the show. Like the early days of Twitter were very much like that. It was just like vicious fucking people where you could say whatever you wanted to folks.
Oh yeah,
it was way less police the way it is now. Like and
but you know what's weird? You know what's weird? It was way more wild west, but somehow felt like more love. It was just weird. Like now, there's all this kind of SJW Tumblr energy, where it's on the surface, it's more tone police, but it's actually nastier. Like it's actually a new way of bullying that looks like not bullying, and it's kind of weird. I don't know if I'm getting across what I'm trying to say, but it's
that completely that ties together what I was saying earlier about the screenshotted thing. Is that like it's like there's these rules, or you could say something the wrong way, or it can be taken the wrong way, and that people are also
trying to score points. That's what I'm trying to say. Everyone's just trying to score a point.
And that's what I'm saying with the screenshot culture. Like when it did really change to the point where everyone was like, well, if I can screenshot a big account and like score a point against them and how they weren't considerate, or they weren't, up to date on like the current terms or whatever, that really did feel like a big change to me, where, like people trying to get clout for just taking people down was like,
yeah. No,
very
there's a lot of that. Take people down, or just people just like, okay. Here's something that like gets on my nerves now, right? Is I feel like there's kind of aesthetic that started back in the day, and you kind of talk about it with that corner. Like even though Twitter was a free for all, it still had some of that residual old internet energy. And what I mean by that is the internet used to be just a bunch of different corners where it was like you have um your favorite message board. It might be something awful. You go to something awful. That's where drill got to start. Whatever. You might be into 4chan. You might be into say like Black Planet or something. You might be into
Battlestar Galactica and
yeah.
Beat Mania. That's where I spent most of that was my forum posting.
Yeah. I used to go to the comic book message board, and it turned out Mario was on the same comic book message board, and he knew me from there. I didn't even know that
Oh
Oh,
wow.
that's crazy.
he knew me from there, and he's like, yeah, I used to read your comments on the comic book message board, like shit like that, like you go to a wrestling one, a sports one, whatever. But when Twitter first came together, to me, even though everybody was in the same place, everyone wasn't in the same room yet. Like like weird Twitter was its own thing.
Yeah,
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 like
yeah.
media
You weren't
Twitter
going
was
to be cornered with a certain group like Black Twitter. Like you know. I thought,
yeah.
yeah,
But Black Twitter had its own thing and its own
yeah.
memes. But now like Twitter is just like they pushed somehow everyone just got pushed together, and I think that's when it's gotten really weird and people taking shots at each other all the time and stuff. Like
It's just, I mean, it's hard to keep the momentum going. It's been so long ago since it was first around. I just remember when people first talked about it, like, what am I supposed to do? Right? What I eat for lunch?
yeah,
What a
exactly.
stupid thing. It's hard to keep the momentum going, but there's people that are of the age range that are still in it, and like the written word is still very powerful. Like you said, blogs have been replaced by more micro blogging, but the people that know the English language, the folks that can like put together a good story and flourish and flow and all of that, like you will get rewarded with attention, on those sites. I mean, I think that
But I think not like it used to be, because you know what?
no,
Like now, like when I first started tweeting and I got attention, I would do these kind of long threads and talk about a topic. Now I think that's too earnest for how it is now. Now everybody like
I
I would get
disagree.
laughed off. What's that? I think it's harder now because you know what it is now. Now you go on and there's somebody whose avatar is just some weird picture, and it's like somebody with glowing eyes, and their name is the noun haver, like the sex
Dong.
haver, yeah, something like that, or it's like a long sentence that makes no sense, and then you go to the profile and the location is like Dubai, but everything is a different layer of disguise, and it's like the um the website on the website is tech support for Microsoft. It's like, okay, you put
Oh yeah.
this is the most try hard, low effort thing I've ever seen. Like, you're trying so hard to look low effort and detached. It's actually having like the opposite effect. And everything is just repeating catchphrases and buzzwords that more popular, generally interesting accounts have done. So it's like someone says something stupid, and then 100 people will come in with the same drill screen cap to respond to the guy. And it's like, okay, just be yourself. Like, be like, who are you? Like who are you beyond this 12 layers of um whatever the quick, like, I feel like now the whole thing is like, are you mad online? Who can act like they care or less? Who can be, but it's like, okay, we're all on here. We're all arguing about things, talking about things. Everybody cares to a degree. Just show me who you are and who you care about. Don't just show me how detached and hip you are. And I think there's always a little bit of that, and it's cool. But I don't want an internet where everybody's trying to be drilled. Like I don't want, especially because first off, half of them aren't good at it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good at it. He's good. Drill is good at being drill, and drill is good because there's only a handful of people trying to be drill. But when everyone's trying to be like a bootleg drill, it just kind of becomes a weird. It's not totally there yet, but I think it's becoming there. I think you're doing it the right way, which is you're coming in in doses and not on a lot. I think I'm still on it too much, and that's my problem.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've definitely tried to meter it out and make sure that it's meaningful and just something that I want to do, and only go for the stuff that makes me not good, makes me feel good, and try to have too much fucking, not to spend too much time having anxiety or being self-conscious about it, and just trying to share stuff and put myself out there and try to find something funny or entertaining to share with people.
Yeah, I mean, you make it sound so simple. That's really how it
It's
should
not
be. Like,
though. I
just
mean, I'm not
yeah,
good at it, to be honest. Brian is like amazing at it. Brian does never get stops. Like he will just share his whole existence all day long. I get beaten down. Like I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I interesting? Who would pay attention to me? Like I beat myself up. It's hard for me to keep it going, for this long. Even with that's the thing about Twitter is like 10 years in, like it was funny to make fun of the war stuff and to do like irony war stuff way back in the day when it wasn't like the thing to do, but now it's just like depresses me that the best we can do is make irony jokes about war.
yeah, yeah. No, I know
I
what you
was
mean.
trying
Like,
to spark people to get in the streets and to organize. I wasn't trying to just do gallows humor, in a way.
yeah, it can't end there. Like, that
Right.
can't be like the end game. My high
I also
water. Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
Like I say, like the high water moment for gallows humor for me, but it wasn't really gallows humor, but and this is like really inside baseball. Like people who aren't on Twitter are gonna be like, "What are you guys talking about?" But Randy G Dub, is that the
Yes.
name?
Yep.
When this guy on Twitter, and I'm gonna try to keep
Legend.
it not inside baseball. I'm gonna try to keep it broad, but and Kenny, I don't know if you were around Twitter for this. Mike and Mario were, and it was really funny. But he said, um, I'm working at the post office, shredding absentee ballots, and I'm
I
having like a
remember
great
that.
time. You remember that?
Yeah.
And then all
Yes.
these
And they
right
lost
all,
their minds.
all these right wingers bit at the bait, like they just could not see that he was joking.
That was
And
around the
that was
time that Ricky Vaughn dude was around.
yeah, Ricky Vaughn was still around and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and it spiraled so out of control. It ended up sparking a real life investigation about whether there was somebody
Oh
really
man, that shit
in the
was so
post office.
funny.
And
That
that
was so funny.
Oh, that shit was so funny. They really thought it was real. Like that was hilarious. I forgot
Yeah,
about that. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, there's just that moment where people are so excited about this platform and they're like, oh, people can just are being really real on Twitter and they're actually documenting their life. They
yeah,
don't even think that someone would be facetious about it. Yeah, that was a fucking good one.
yeah. Oh my god, it was good times. But oh, Killster619, what's up? He said, I think this is true. Killster619 said, it's funny how the people who clowned on the hipsters ended up adopting just about everything hipsters do, but with less liberalism or libertarian bents. That wasn't actually the one I meant to read. It's because it's scrolling. The one I meant to read is bullying is seen as bad unless you are suddenly justified in perpetuating it for the wokeness. Then it's just discipline. And I agree with that. I feel like woke has become the acceptable way to bully, you know what I'm saying? And people are doing that now, like where you get a license to just dogpile if it's for uh a justified reason, but you can also tell a lot of the people jumping in don't really even believe in what they're canceling you for. You know what I'm saying? They're just saying it just to fucking say it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that that's what I found is like moving away from the online. I don't have to worry about that stuff as much. But for the incredibly online, yeah, the dogmatic nature of it is what kind of like that's what I'm trying to work outside of, or kind of get away from. The just the culture of the online stuff is I mean, huge. Every single day it feels gigantic. It feels like there's something going on every single day. But like when you go out into the world, like the people that you meet there in the real world have no idea what's going on or what you're talking about. in some
I
way.
think it's actually okay to dabble in. Like, I think if you go too far and try to live like a modern Walden and just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna disconnect from everything. I think that's just like a
For
overcompensation.
sure.
But I think you got to find some kind of
I mean, it should be fun
balance.
and rewarding. I mean, it should be something that you like to do. I mean, I like to talk to people. I prefer, I guess, replying to stuff anymore. Just like people that are putting it out there, just me jumping in and talking to them is like just as rewarding now as broadcasting to everybody, you know?
How are you feeling about the election stuff? Are either of you particularly tuned in?
I hate it. Like I feel
I
like
feel
it's
like
a
I'm going too much toward Brett, and I want to make this not an interview, but just like a conversation. So Kenny, feel free to jump in anytime. I'm not directing this just anything I ask just toward Brett. Like I
Oh,
want,
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah.
yeah, I'm willing to listen as well. But no, I don't know. I mean, I get pretty tired of the stuff. I don't know. It's probably not a good impulse. You know, I think that Sanders probably would be a great thing to happen, you know, to kind of shake things up in the country. But I also, you know, have been through a lot of this and seen how regular politics work, and they fuck over people that talk and say the type of stuff that he does, you know. Like there's people that are trying to stop him from getting ahead, and it's really frustrating for me to see people consider folks that are just like PR campaigns, you know, like the Kamala Harris, the Buttigieg, the Biden. Any of those are just like, those aren't people. That's like a group of 25-year-old marketers that came up with the personality of that person, you know.
But you know what's weird about what you just said, right? Is that right? Like what you said, it seems so contrived, the image and like created by marketers, but people will connect with that shit.
I know
Like
they do.
that
It
K
really
Hive,
means something.
Kenny, have you seen the K Hive, the Kamala people? They
Oh yeah.
Kamala people are nuts for her still. They're still mad. I'm like, what were you connecting on with this woman? This woman just seems like a prosecuting robot. Like someone created the
Yeah.
ultimate prosecuting robot. Like, you know, remember the being a $6 million man? Like, gentlemen, we can create the perfect prosecutor. She will just keep locking them up. You know, we have the capability. We can make this happen, gentlemen. Like, yeah, I think that's what
Those
she is.
idiots jumped on the wrong bandwagon at the wrong time at the right time. That's the thing. Like those are the people that thought they were going to get a job later. You know what I'm saying? Like
No, those people, the strivers, I get. But I'm talking about just regular Joes who like connect with her, like inspiring, like, you know.
you know, no, nobody connected with her. Come on, man.
That's what I want to think. But if they're not connecting, then they're really putting on a
They
good
just
act.
thought she was cute for an older lady. They thought she looked good.
Maybe it's what it
And
was.
she do for an older lady. You know, I hit it, you know. But I ain't fucking lying.
Yes, well, I'm also impressed by Boss Lady. Like I like a woman that's in charge.
You know, well, one thing I will say is interesting with the Kamala Harris, like there were a lot of like people online being very thirsty for Tulsi Gabbard, and I was wondering, like, you know, why does Kamala like it the same? I'm glad, Kenny, you're representing for the Kamala Harris thirst, because I feel like Kamala Harris is as thirstworthy as Tulsi Gabbard, even if she's 10 years older. When she was young, she was pretty fine. I mean, she probably called the cops on you the minute you do something wrong, but you know, Kamala Harris did seem she used to date Montel Williams. Did you know that?
What?
God damn.
Yeah.
That would have helped her.
Yeah.
I've smoked that dude's weed before.
If you Google her and and Montel Williams is a big like weed advocate now, right? Isn't he like a big?
He has some really good CBD like medicinal strains. We've got him out in California before, out in the Bay.
Yeah, he's all about like the weed now. He might have helped give her like some cool credibility, like, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, and I mean, he dated her when she was fine. If you Google the pictures of when he was dating her, like she was pretty fine.
Yes, I mean, my wife is a boss lady, and so I do like when like the I like a pantsuit when it comes off. So you know, like I'm definitely into
a good pantsuit.
Yeah, I don't mind the heels clacking down the hall, like knows I'm ready to bust down.
and you can do that and still make it like likable or whatever, but she was very confused about what she wanted to be, because she wanted to be like, you know, your black auntie. She wanted to be the top cop. She wanted to be a bunch of things at once, and I
If
don't
she
know,
could
but
have
there.
played the if she could have played the single mother role, she would have did that too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
But that wasn't gonna work.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
yeah, but
what
yeah.
it, I mean, it really does come down to fantasy, though. Like that's really what it is. Like she is like the boss lady from like The Good Wife from that TV show. Like she hits all of the stuff. That's what they do with all these candidates is that these folks are like great TV characters, but have nothing, no understanding of real life. You know.
But I'm telling you, people were invested in her, like crying online, saying, I'm so broken up over this. But then at the same time, I look at people talk about Avengers Endgame, which I thought was an enjoyable game, where they're like, I broke down crying when Captain America died. Like, fucking really? Like, so I guess people can, right now, I think people are just alienated enough, they'll connect to anything. Like, everything is that girl on YouTube eating by herself that you're tuning in to watch. Like, people are just ready to connect to just about anything. And it's scary what they'll connect to. Like, the most contrived, fake. Like, there was, have you seen these people called the Raylos? They're people who are obsessed with Ray and Kylo Ren from Star Trek being in love.
Star
And,
Wars.
and yeah, and this was a 5-minute plot point in the second movie. And I'm like, how did you get so invested in this fucking 5 minutes from The Last Jedi that you've made it your whole personality by the time the third movie came in? Like, there was one woman, she got mad at John Boyega and accused John Boyega of terrorizing her because he made a joke about the Kylo Ren Ray relationship. And she just went crazy. She went on this huge thread. Then a bunch of people got in her mentions are like, "Are you okay? Are you gonna be okay? I can't believe he did that to you and whatever." He didn't do it to her. He just made a tweet. It wasn't like he said, "Hey, bitch, you like Kylo Ren? I'm glad he died." Like, he was just saying out loud. But then she went on live stream and just like ranted and melted down live. And there's a part of me that wants to make fun of her because it is kind of funny, but at the same time, this part of me is like, I hope she's okay. Like, I hope she has people in her life that after she shuts down the live stream and everyone finishes dunking on her, someone, because she has like a normal looking house. She's not tweeting from a sanitarium. She's from, like, she's got to have people in her life. She's got to have a job. She has to have some kind of regular life. So what's got her so alienated in this, nice normal looking house and on a computer where she's this melting down over a fake relationship on in Star Wars? It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that they think it's unfair that Sanders just says that like people should have more, like they think it's like a cheat or something.
Yeah.
But it's, it is they're talking about parasocial relationships. Like there is somebody that is like an advice column, like Elizabeth Warren is trying to be like the break up with him advice columnot
Oh
now,
yeah, yeah.
which I love. I mean, just so unnatural for
And the
her.
funny thing is, she didn't write it. Like, it's just some
No,
intern that wrote
but
that thing.
I mean, but even Bernie Sanders isn't writing his own tweets. Like I know that, but Bernie Sanders tweets are to the point and they revolve around politics. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
him
Bernie
doing like a
Sanders
snap your fingers thing.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders is not trying to make his Twitter account sound like you're a lovable grandpa. He's not saying, come sit on Grandpa Bernie's lap while I tell you about student loan forgiveness. It's just, here's the bullet points. Here's what we're doing. But Ken, I don't know if you saw this one, but Elizabeth Warren did a tweet, and it was basically like she was your homegirl. She was like, and it didn't even make sense. She said, break up with the guy who ghosts you. Do this, do
Huh?
that. And it's like, first off, how do you break up with someone who ghosts you? Like, they ghosted you, they're gone. You can't break up.
Yeah, they're
Break up
gone.
with,
I don't even know.
It
What does
was
but
that
like
mean?
she was just doing cool buzz.
break up with the guy that ghosted you, leave the roommate that wouldn't let you get a dog or something like that. It was it was just a bunch of gibberish that looks like something that would be on a pillow at like Urban Outfitters,
Yeah, it made like no sense. Like, it wasn't just that it was gibberish. It literally didn't make sense. Like, break up with the
Well,
guy who ghosted you, and
it says you deserve better, dump the guy who ghosted you, convince the roommate to let you adopt a dog, and I'll take care of canceling your student loan debt. It's
and
just a
and, and
really corny thing.
and it also kind of trivializes the problem because it feels like I feel like okay when Bernie Sanders talks about trivializing when he talks about canceling student loan debt, he's like, I know you're having trouble getting your life started, this stuff has happened to you. She's making it seem like okay, the average person with student loan debt is just worrying about things like who's ghosting them. Like, no, this is like a crippling debt that's crippling you out the gate. Like,
Right. This is taking on. It made my wife cry at work when the student loan people called her and said how much money they wanted.
Yeah, and you're just lumping it in there with the guy who ghosted you and getting a dog. Like it has the opposite effect. It doesn't humanize you. It just makes you look like you don't even understand the pain people are feeling. But
yeah, and Elizabeth Warren is not the Reed. Like Elizabeth Warren is not like, she is not sassy like that. She should just be herself. And that's what they miss so much about with what they miss so much. And it just, but there are a lot of people that seem to fall for it. I don't understand it.
What Kenny, right? Like what is something that you were like a big fan of, and then you look at and you're like, what was I thinking? Like because I try to think, did I buy into anything like a K? There had to be something, like
yeah.
Are you able to think of something, Brett? Like something that was like,
I mean, I definitely was very into John Kerry, at one point. Like in my earlier days in my life, I thought he was going to solve all the problems. And like, it's just so embarrassing now to think about that guy, doing anything helpful.
That was John Kerry was 2004, right? Was he 2000?
No, I think it was 2004 because 2008 was Obama.
2004.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I have the easiest answer. Fucking conservatism. Me and Mario talk about that, but not at a time when there was like the compassionate conservatism and it was like the West Wing conservatism. So I just thought like, because black people are kind of naturally socially conservative, you know what I'm saying? And at the time, it wasn't like now where everyone's full mask off, white supremacists and stuff. So it was like, I thought conservatism was just like Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell and some bootstrap stuff, like
respectability stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that, and so I remember that. I feel really embarrassed about that because
something that I was obsessed with. I don't even know if I was obsessed with it, but like I used to I guess this is around the time when I really first started getting on the internet was like 9/11 conspiracies. I used to watch all the fucking documentaries.
That loose change.
Yeah, loose change. That's what it was. Then it was Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist broke it down all the way back to
Oh,
then
Gavin,
Gavin the Alex Jones documentaries.
Oh yeah,
those Alex Jones documentaries where they would be in like some hotel over in DC, and he would like make it like some alarm went off. Oh, they're on to us, and it would be like they're on to us. Yeah, they're on to us.
The thing about it, I was definitely an Alex Jones head back in the day too. But back then he was like, the Republicans and the Democrats both want to throw you in jail. And I was like, I think that motherfucker's right. Like, I feel like
until the black guy got in office.
Suddenly he took sides.
He became a Republican motherfucker, was like, which was so disappointing. But like in the early days, it was like, don't trust any of these people. And it's like his instincts were right,
Yeah.
Gavin in the chat said Obama. I think that's a lot of people. But that's funny with Obama for me. Easy. Obama was kind of an opposite thing for me because Obama, right? Even though I'm not crazy about Obama, one thing I would say good about Obama's presidency is he shed the light on what bullshit that compassionate conservatism thing was right off the bat. Because all that talk about, like, it's not about the best person for the job or do whatever. Once Obama won, suddenly they just went full racist. It was just like chimpanzee stuff and all types of stuff, and it was like,
there were dudes when Barack Obama became president. I used to be on Facebook. There was dudes that I've known since middle school. They all of a sudden overnight just became racist than a motherfucker. Damn. Yeah. And I would say something to him. I'd be like, yo, so you just that's what we doing now.
That's the same. Like me and Brian used to talk about on the show a lot, but having guys like turn 30 and all of a sudden having a kid, and out of nowhere they're like talking about sagging pants and black and milds and shit, and it's like, dog, we were doing that when we were kids. Like, we were the
Yeah.
same criminals. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? Like, you don't remember being 14? Like, what
Yep.
do you like? How are you now like saying that we need to like bring the hammer down on it? People
Man,
Yeah.
we were
for sagging
talking.
their pants.
We were talking about that in the gentrification episode about how a lot of hipsters show up, 10 years ago, and it's like, hey, we're fashionably slumming, we're hanging out with the people in the stoop or whatever. Then they have a kid, and suddenly they're on the community board, they're calling the cops, and it's like,
They
okay, we got
hostile architecture out front.
Yep, exactly. We got to
Yep.
gentrify the schools. Crazy shit. I forgot the most basic thing. Remember to like and subscribe. That's supposed to be
Yes.
at the top of the
Well, it's a good
show.
way to slide it in.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
So I guess I don't want to be, I don't know how to ask it nicely, but I would love to hear or talk about a little bit of social media in the discussion, especially when it comes to Elizabeth Warren, and it happened with the Hillary Clinton campaign, but like the use of blackness as like a shorthand for cool or poppin' or like slang, like
I will say, I think it's happened less this time. It was
Really?
really bad 2016. It was really getting, I mean, it's still bad, but I don't think you remember how bad 2016 was with the forced sassiness. It
hot
was
sass in the bag and all that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. The hot sauce in the bag, I think, actually was true. That's kind of
I've
ironic.
heard that she does carry that. And she
Yeah, but she does it for health reasons. Apparently, her doctor prescribed.
Opens up.
Apparently, apparently she carries hot sauce in the bag because her doctor told her that it's almost lamer than the reason why people thought she did it, right? Because at first I thought, wow, she does the hot sauce in the bag because she just thinks black people are that into hot sauce. And then I found some old interviews and talking with her and stuff with friends, and apparently some doctor told her that there's an enzyme in hot sauce called capsaicin that does all this stuff, is good for your heart. I'm like, that's almost lamer. like they just carry it like for this medical.
She's an old school health nut.
Yeah. So like, it's kind of like an Oprah-ish tip. Like, hey, here's a new thing, and it's but they called her they called her Mama Hillary in Africa. They called her Sister Hillary. Remember that one? And Black Twitter ain't having no Bernie. Remember that one? That was a.
So let me try. Let me try to agitate you in another direction, though. What about like some of the ironic stuff from, say, people that like our show, from like Sanders supporters? Like, what about the folks that put like king shit underneath like every post, or
that's a good question.
Because like in my mind, I understand they're doing it from an ironic point of view, but I think from an outsider point of view, it looks like you're picking on black folks, for the "we was kings" thing, or for being proud of themselves. Like, you're trying to be ironic and in the know, but I think it just comes off like, I feel like it could turn people away from what
that was doing. Total racism when those people were doing that. Yeah. That was back in the days when the what was the name of that frog that people were all
Pepe.
putting as
Pepe,
yeah, that was back in those days when Ricky Vaughn and all those dudes. It was one of those. So, damn, this is a really good. That's a really good topic. You remember this?
Yeah. But before you get started, just hold that thought, because I want to add some context before you get started, right? But I think the misunderstanding you're about to have actually helps Brett's point, right? What he's talking about is not the alt-right people, but now there's like, because Kenny's not too plugged into like the ironic left and whatever, so he's not too plugged into that. What he's talking about is people who are like socialists and things like that, who kind of talk like that, but you're not sure if they're making fun of the alt-right people. After a while, you start losing track of who's being made fun of,
right?
But I think what Kenny said is good, because Kenny would see that. And his first association is to think, oh, Ricky Vaughn. So what happens when someone who's not initiated into the irony sense of humor sees that?
If you're going to be using those gifs and those memes, and you don't know where they stem from, I'm just going to throw your ass in the box with those people over there. Because yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because I know you know better. You know what I mean? And just because you're a quote unquote socialist and a liberal don't mean you're not racist. I live in Portland, fucking Oregon. Okay.
Or you can't assume that everybody knows a sense of humor. But then the other thing is too, and this is the problem I have too, is like I've started noticing that you can't assume everyone who's jumping in on a joke is jumping into it with the same spirit you are. And I've
Mhm.
been noticing that there'll be a lot of people who will be mixed in with a lot of other people, and you start realizing, okay, wait a minute, this person is just straight up alt right. There was a guy
Yeah.
who was in that stupid. I don't know how you pronounce it when you say it out loud, but the whole stupid Paul thing, right? There was this guy who's he replies on this lady Amy Teresa's replies or whatever, and then someone pointed out to me, look at what this guy tweets, right? And I started looking, and he'll be in these class reductionist socialist tweets and threads, and he'll be gradually saying stuff like, the Civil War is about states' rights and like this crazy
Mhm.
shit, like just pushing the envelope. And I'm like, I don't know if he's doing it as a joke or what, but he's trying to get people to agree with crazy alt-right stuff in a socialist thread, and the people are also busy dunking on identity politics or using like this ironic racism. They don't realize this guy is actually like planted himself as an alt-right person in the thing, and this guy is like pretty popular in that scene. His name begins with M. I can't remember what his name is, but he's pretty much just a straight up white nationalist. And I don't know if
That's social media fakery, though.
Yeah. So what are your
yeah,
thought? What are your thoughts, Kenny? Like, what
It's
were
this,
you,
it's social media fakery. It's the way people can like do this hand is quicker than the eye thing. You think one thing, and then what they want to do is engage you, and then they're just gonna troll the shit out of you for the next 20 minutes about all this stuff that they want to talk about, and they're just gonna get you misguided and undecided about what the topic is really about. Like that's why I never used to get into those conversations with people, because it would turn into T's seen it before. I'll be like, okay, I don't even know what the fuck this dude's talking about.
yeah.
You're a racist, okay?
I think
But you're trying to, it's almost like it's like wrestling where a guy, old school wrestling where a guy comes out and he's a good guy and he turns heel at the end of the match. That's really
and
what it's like to me.
I'm gonna
like
I'm gonna
you
say
had us in the first half.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this to add to that. I think one thing that's kind of happening is I think a lot of people have actually ironied themselves into genuine racism and haven't
Mhm.
really realized it, right?
I mean,
And and I'm gonna tell you this, like there's this thing now where nobody really. I think there's a lot of people who their real number one loyalty is not really to socialism or alt-rightness or whatever, but to the brand of being too cool for school and
yes.
ironic. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is, and this is how I can tell, right? I got into this big thing with a bunch of class reductionists and stuff, and they were like trolling me like crazy. And then Mario saw it, and he's like, I thought the alt-right was gone. I thought they were off Twitter. It was all the stupid Paul, Amy Teresa type people,
Mhm.
but they're using all the same memes, the same language, the same bad
Yep.
faith
Yep.
attacks. And I'm like, no, those are actually supposed to be Bernie people. And he's like, really? Like it looks just like
Or what it
Ricky
could be
Bond.
with a lot of those people, what it could be is that in the present day, they probably were part of the alt-right,
I think
but
some of them
they're
were. I
not.
think some of them were too.
Yeah, a lot of them were.
I think what a lot of them are is people who were part of the alt-right, but then they kind of realize, look, I need insurance. So
Yeah, and this ain't going because the alt-right ain't going nowhere.
yeah. So I want something that's edgy like the alt-right, but gets me insurance and student loan forgiveness.
Mhm.
And I think so. I think some of them are in it for that. They don't really care about socialism as a project for helping people or connecting with other people. They're like, what can I selfishly get out of it? But I don't want to actually like or connect with people. I have empathy with people, and
Right.
so they're bringing that alt-right like edgelordness and lack of empathy, but they're bringing it to the socialist project, but just to you know benefit themselves. And when I said that online, a lot of them got mad at me because they were like, oh yeah, we're not real socialists. Like, yeah, what's leftist about getting rid of student loan debt? What's not leftist about doing Medicare for all? I'm like, no, that's not what doesn't make you um a leftist. Is that you only want to do that because you just want shit, not because you actually care about enriching everybody or helping. Like you actually hate everybody but yourself, you know? So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like,
It's a
yeah,
great way. It's a great way to be contrarian. For the longest time, like being like that was counterculture and just a way to piss folks off. Like, and
yeah.
there's even been people now that it becomes popular. It's like, oh, it's not that cool anymore. Like you have to move on to the next thing. Like when it
Yeah,
comes down to actually advocating for workers' rights or not crossing the line and doing fucked up things, to other people, it's like, oh, that's not what I really wanted. I just wanted to get like a payout from the government while I considered to be a piece of shit.
Remember
I'll say
that
something.
happened on Twitter. Remember with the reparation conversation that we had that time, and those dudes all of a sudden just flipped the script and turned into alt writers. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It
Oh
was me,
yeah,
you, and
yeah.
Mario. I mean,
I
it just
do.
just
I just
immediately as soon as we talked about reparations, they got pissed.
Right. And it is like I do want to I don't want to, I'm not trying to fake the funk on this thing. Like I do want to be in an inclusive atmosphere, but sometimes when I look online and I see the conversations when people are trying to be ironic about stuff, like when someone says like it bees that way sometimes, but they like have never listened to Nina Simone in their life. It's like,
Right.
Yeah.
so what are they doing here? Like they're just advancing
Performative.
they're advancing this dialect and adopting it as their thing, but they don't really mean it, but they're now making a joke. And if I'm on the outside, even for me, like when I look at it, I'm like, man, this is just fucking racist, dude.
Yeah, it's
Like,
racist, man.
But
Period.
you know what's funny about that, right? Is like sometimes, and this is the thing, sometimes a stop clock can still be right. You know what I'm saying? Like
for
it's right
sure.
twice a day. So it's like there was this thing that happened, and I think because of the terms that people use, and this it's fun to dunk on identity politics. So they're talking about like microaggressions and one thing a lot of like leftists will have in common with alt-right people is to dunk on that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and they both kind of hate the idea of care lords and whatever and stuff. But there was this thing that went around called digital blackface. And because she called it digital blackface and wrote articles, everybody dunked on it. But what you're describing is basically what she was doing in that article. But
Yeah.
because of the source it came from, and because it was just someone who also used that kind of hysterical SJW language that just made people just think, oh, this is just some kind of Tumblr weirdo, like
Right.
digital blackface. And it's like the way you put it, you just put it like this is the behavior and it looks weird and looks racist, but you didn't try to give it a catchy SJW type of Tumblr type of name. But also it comes, and this is the sad truth of it. This is the sad reality, but her as a black woman using SJW type of language that is already kind of a caricature in and of itself doesn't get listened to, but you saying it carries a lot more weight because they're like, okay, he's from that world. Like there'll be a lot of people that who would laugh at her article and the digital blackface thing, but hear you say it and think, wait, Brett said it. That means more. And this is kind of what I was gonna say before about how I think a lot of people have more loyalty to the brand of being ironic than to any actual politics. Is when I was getting trolled by all these people and they're going crazy and it sounded just like alt-writers, like all these stupid Paul people, and making a bunch of like bad faith things. Like, for example, I called somebody a pussy, and then they're like, wow, that's pretty misogynistic. Like, he's saying this and that. And I'm like, oh, come on. You listen to like and say the most vile shit. I've seen your timeline. You don't care about this. Like, you're just trying to score a point and be
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
But
not gonna work.
yeah, like fuck you. You're a pussy. I don't care. Like
Pussy cat. I meant like a pussy cat.
no, but I stuck by it. I'm like, you don't mean it. I don't
Yeah.
care. But
It's disingenuous, all of it. I
it's so
mean,
disingenuous. But this was interesting, right? There were a lot of dirtbag leftists who I know if I was getting into it with Sadie Doyle, they would have all been there in drove. I mean, I'm not saying this like I wanted people to back me up because I could hold my own nuts. I don't care. Like, like I'm not saying like, hey, I want people to back me up. I was arguing with them all day. I don't care. But what I noticed was it was like us so-called like dirtbag leftists or whatever. If we go against these even more ironic people, we're going to be the care lords in that interaction. and that's fatal. We don't want to look that way. We like to be the most ironic person in a conversation at any point. We like to be the ones doing the dunking. So if we go against these stupid Paul type of class reductionist trolley types, now we're gonna look like the liberals. We can't do that. So a lot of people were in my DMs like, oh man, that person's an asshole, this, that. But if it was like a Tom Watson or somebody who's super earnest and like, some bumblefuck, they would have all just been dumping in, dropping drill things. But that's also the weakness of that kind of attitude of being ironic all the time, is that it becomes useless against somebody who cares even less than you, or somebody who's even more nihilistic. It's useless. You can't, like, if somebody is the kind of person that is using slurs without caring, and is like I gave an example, like Jake Flores was talking about how actually it wasn't Jake Flores, somebody else who was talking about how people were saying like vile stuff to him in the DMs about like somebody who died in this podcast, right? It's like, okay, people that fucked up, console socialists or whatever is supposed to be on your side. How do you out irony that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't. The only thing you have to do is, the only thing left for you in that situation is be like, you know what? You're fucked up and you're vile. And I think for a lot of people, dropping that pose is too much for them. They don't want to look corny. And like, I think something's gotta like break at some, and Slavoj Zizek said this on Chapo when he guest starred. He was like, at some point you're gonna have to just be okay just being unironically a good person.
Yeah. No, that's what we've tried to make the podcast into, to be honest. That's the only thing I'm comfortable doing. I feel like, saying the truth and expressing myself out loud, how I feel about stuff has been the winning key to all of this, is that sharing what my existence has been like as a working person, and not compromising, and not like trying to explain it away, and being honest and open about the struggles of getting by every day. That has been the biggest win for me, is because then I'm not totally tied to being the most careless person in the room, because like
Yeah.
you don't want to
Because
be that.
it's a race to the bottom. It's
It
just a total
is.
race to the bottom,
You
and
can get
it
there.
has
I've said
it has
wild
its
shit in
limits.
my
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
I've said all of the bad words in my life, and I've done all of that stuff. And
and it
you know,
has its limits. It has its limits. And when you get with somebody more vile than you, what can you do? Like, you can't beat it. And I think that's where a lot of these like dirtbag left types are having their hands tied with this. Because first off, they're gonna have to be honest about something that, to a degree, this is a monster that they kind of created, and they're
yeah,
going to
yeah,
have to they're going to have to rein it in, but they don't know how to rein it in because they only know how to do the things that they've done that created this monster. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
And I think a big solution that they've tried to have, which I think is not going to work, is just try to pretend the monster's not there, or the monster is exaggerated, or just a couple of like this is what I think making it about Amy Therese is going to be their biggest problem. Like, I think it's easier for them to make it all about one person and say, oh, there's just one boogeyman. It's like, no, she's just one of many. And I'm convinced the reason they like making her the target is, out of all of them, she's the one who fits that pose the least. She's very earnest. If you look at her, she's kind of square. She doesn't have a funky, ironic type of name. She's just uses big words and is very earnest. So she's almost like arguing with a Tom Watson or a Lib.
Hmm.
So I think she's the easiest lightning rod for them to mock, because she doesn't have their brand on steroids.
The
Yeah.
great thing about her is that you get so much. All you have to do is say that she went after me, and then all the people that like you are like, no, you're great, don't listen to her. You can really mine her for a lot of good feelings and like
That is
positive
true.
support, because you're like, oh, she came after us. I'm not worried about those people. I think in the long run, like that can't, it's not going to work. Like, you're not going to make anything by being the contrarian that doesn't want to work with people. I think everybody that's involved in what we're doing is trying to elevate everyone else that's doing stuff. you know, and
But
to be the one
I
that like
think
stands on the outside and tries to criticize people, I don't think is helpful.
but I think the problem can be that when there wasn't Bernie Bros and when they weren't real, the media made them out of thin air. Now that there's actually a handful of people that they can like
Yeah.
amplify, I think that's something that's going to be dangerous. But I think in a way, one thing that'll be good. This is what's interesting about them, right? Kenny, have you ever heard this phrase? Like being Republican is a new punk rock. Like that guy Milo is trying to do that. Like, oh, being Republican is a new punk rock. Like everyone's like a liberal. And I think what happened was
That's definitely backwards because punk rockers definitely aren't Republicans.
no, but that was what the mindfuck he was trying to do. He was like, it says punk rock is so mainstream now. If you want to actually be punk rock, you have to be Republican, and that's what Milo, that guy Milo, was doing. But it worked. A lot of people went for it. But after Trump wins,
stupid people out there.
Yeah, but after Trump wins, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. Going back to the left, but overshooting the mark is actually now the new punk rock. So I think what started happening was when Trump won and being alt-right became kind of mainstream and whatever, then I started thinking, I think a lot of them kind of said, oh, going a full horseshoe 360 to being like on these far left people, it sounds edgy, it sounds cooler. They can meme now. This is actually probably the new punk rock. Like going back.
They're gonna all wear shirts. They're gonna wear like Ramones t-shirts or something.
Not even that. Wearing the favorite podcaster t-shirt. You know, like we're gonna overshoot the mark and go back toward the left. But what's interesting, and tell me if you've seen this, Brett. Now that Bernie Sanders is actually number one again, is not an underdog and whatever, a lot of those trolley types are turning on Bernie Sanders. Have you seen that? A lot of the Bernie trolls.
I don't know if I've seen that, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I think that I've seen a lot more momentum go in his direction. I wanted to know what y'all two thought about like the electoral campaign so far. Like, are you invested in it at all?
I'm gonna answer that, but I was gonna say like one quick thing. I think the regular leftists online are as behind Bernie as like ever. I'm talking about like that contingent of like trolls. They've been turning on the regular leftists, like the whole Amy Therese crowd. But again, I think they're a small part. But that's the group that has turned against Bernie. But I think but they're turning against him because he's reaching out of the clique. He's connecting with people in a bunch of places.
Here's the thing that changed about him, and I'll tell you, this is what for me, like this is a big epiphany, was that he finally is in number one spot.
Yes, he's number one
because the
spot.
last time around he was number 3, and you were just listening to people proselytize all day about how he should really be number 1, and it's like the dude is not fucking polling anywhere in like the winning position. So now at this point, like he is at least pulling ahead. So this is where some people are kind of some people will just turn their backs and be like, oh, it's too cool for school. Or
I think it's good to lose those contrarians. I think it's good to
lose
those contrarians.
I mean, there's so many other people that are willing to be involved with it. But like, what do you think? Like, what do y'all think?
I've been talking too much, so I want Kenny to talk because I feel like I've been hogging.
I don't know. I mean, you know how I am about politics, man. I think honestly, if you really want the truth, I mean, social media does play a huge role in how these things shake themselves out. I mean, I think social media is a huge reason why Trump won. You had a lot of people that just was trying to crash the party and be dickheads just to be dickheads.
Yeah,
for sure.
You know what I mean? And a lot of that is still going on. If I had to take a guess, I mean, it's going to be Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump. You know what I mean?
But which one do you want? Because I want Bernie Sanders, but
I don't give a fuck about neither one of them.
Thank you. Honestly, I mean, I'm with you. I do a show too, and like, I do think that it would be impressive, and like it would be neat and interesting for Bernie Sanders to become president. But I do feel like people need to there needs to be more than just like voting for the president, because that's not enough. There's enough people that can stop him.
I mean, give a. Oh wait, Kenny's. Well, he probably come back
as soon as you asked him to jump on the mic. He got fucking dropped.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think give a fuck and want are two different things, because I don't really like like I'm not one of these like Bernie Sanders stands where I'm like, oh, I give a. Actually, he's back. Yeah, you dropped out for a second.
I don't know what happened there. It just
Okay.
took me out.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess
but
the Bernie people took me out.
they were hacking. No, I was just saying I don't actually like give a fuck about Bernie Sanders as far as being a Bernie Sanders stan, but out of the two people, I do want
Well, I
him
would
to win.
choose him if out of the two people. I mean,
Yeah.
Donald Trump's a fucking full blown
But,
dickhead.
but
You know?
no, but not just that. Out of the Democratic lineup too, I would choose him. Out of what we were given,
Yeah,
like, all the
yeah,
Democrats, you
yeah.
know, like I mean, I know it's supposed to like want Kamala Harris because she's black, but she blatantly said in an interview, "I'm not doing anything just for black people." Like she blatantly actually said
Oh
that in
yeah.
the interview.
Yeah,
So
Obama made that same
Look,
mistake.
I'm from California. I have family members that live in California. I have family members that are in prison because of Kamala Harris. So would never vote for her. But then again, I just saw a commercial. I'm not lying to you. The other day on network regular TV here in Portland for Bloomberg, your guy out in New York. So I'm like, where the hell did he come from? Just popped up out of nowhere.
I know, just
You know what I'm saying?
popped
Like,
in.
dude, and the commercial was hilarious. It goes, he was fired at 39. I'm like, so the fuck what? So you know, okay, he got fired from his job. I've been fired from plenty of jobs. I'm not running for president.
My problem with the whole a lot of the Bernie crowd is I feel like a lot of them are just buying into the same, and I think you might have been getting at this, Brett. They're buying into the same model as liberals and conservatives, where all they care about is the guy on top. There's no real talk about doing grassroots. There's no talk about community building or whatever. They're just
but that's the reason why I stopped paying attention to that level and I pay attention more to the local level.
Yeah,
the things that are
and
happening
that's
in my
important.
neighborhood, the things that are happening in my school district, my daughter's school, things like that is where the differences and where the changes are made. Yeah,
but it's also the work. It's also where the work is.
Yeah,
that's
you got to
the
do
real
the work.
Yeah, that was like I was saying. I mean, to not like imagining a way of being where there isn't some leader that's going to solve all the problems for you is very scary.
Yes,
I feel
yes.
like what we're trying to do is to shepherd people into a world of mystery and not into a world of being like defeated by things the way that they are, but understanding that you do have to show up to like those city council meetings and that it's going to take a lot of effort.
And it's a grind and it's incremental. Like, you know what I mean?
It's not
sexy.
It's not rewarding.
At all. It's a lot of work. It's
but
not rewarding.
We do need to activate it. I mean, there has been some local politicians in the Democratic Party that have been posting about like the grassroots organizing that's happening in Columbus, which we desperately need. And I don't think that we should be discouraged by that stuff. And I don't think that the horse race things at the highest level are where we will make the most ground. And I am seeing, the local folks that are trying to get to be more radical, revolutionary, folks that are trying to shake things up, come from non-traditional political backgrounds. I'm not going to hope and wish that they solve all the problems for me, but that's the direction I'd like to see things going. I would rather see those folks representing and being in part of, the decision making versus the establishment that we've had.
I think one of the problems too is that a lot of people, they don't really know what organizing really means. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people who post for 2 years, post and dunk. Then a midterm election comes, then they post, I'm canvassing. Canvassing. And canvassing is not really organizing. Canvassing is just it's important. And this is not minimizing canvassing, but it's not like going to say a DSA meeting or going to some activist meeting and trying to figure out how we're going to shut down this prison. How are we going to what committees are we going to make to and what are the programs of the committee? Like, people just want to appoint someone to worry about that stuff for them and have these big ticket items. But not just that, the person who you're appointing has to have troops on the ground. Like they need to have a Senate behind them. They need to have people on the ground. But that's not really interesting. But I think like people, even what they think is organizing or grassroots is not really that. Like, canvassing is not really that. But there's this book by this guy called Neil Postman. It's like a really good book. We want to do this book club thing where we have a bunch of listeners in our Discord just all read a book, and we record a show where it's just us and like four listeners, and
Nice.
we all talk about a book that we just read and record it and release it as an episode. But there's one called it's called "Amusing Ourselves to Death" by Neil Postman, and his whole thing was since the advent of movies and then television, people have been trained like Pavlovian dogs to only respond to information if it entertains them. Like the primary function of any piece of information should be first to entertain them, then second to be informative. Like the information
Yeah.
value is second to the entertainment value, and that now everything is expected to be entertaining. And if something fails, people don't look at was the information bad or whatever, or was there a problem with the audience? They think you didn't properly entertain them enough. And I think that's the problem with politics now is the same thing. People want the entertaining aspect of politics, and national elections, they feel like horse races. They call them a horse race. They feel like sports, you're rooting for your team. There's spectacle to it. And that I don't know how to break people out of that because there's a whole
Well,
corporate media machine that's just trained with millions and billions of dollars behind it to condition people from a younger and younger age to expect everything to be entertaining. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, it's a really
Wait, wait, wait,
it
wait.
comes.
Let me ask you a more specific question. Is the answer to accept that this is how people are conditioned now and just lean into it and be like, because this is what I think we kind of do in a way. Let's just out entertain the entertainment complex. Let's make something funnier. Let's make a Chapo. Let's make a street fight. Let's make a Champagne Sharks where, okay, if this is where people are, we'll be the most entertaining thing of all. We'll be more entertaining than your Daily Show, whatever. Or is the answer to unravel the whole construct, which I think is another thing you kind of talked about by being more earnest, where you're kind of trying to say, I don't have to be entertaining or edgy all the time. I want to just not play the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it definitely I am investing in the idea of out entertaining people and being cooler than like the fascists, you know. Like I'm trying to sell the idea that like if you aren't triggered by someone being non-binary, like you win in the end because you can live your life being comfortable
Yeah.
and cool with anybody that comes in front of you. All of a sudden you don't have to be mad about like fucking common core math or like you all of a sudden like you aren't angry all the time about this shit.
How
But
about even being triggered by someone's pants sagging? Like, why does it even
right,
bother you?
all of it. But like I think it's it comes down to oh man, I don't know. I got lost there. What was your question one more time?
All those bong rips probably aren't helping.
No, it didn't help.
Brad is over there keyed.
I am. I'm too fired up.
No, but I would say is the answer to lean into the out entertaining everything
No,
aesthetic, or is it to back away, or a combination of both?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that like the entertaining aspect? I've like from the jump, me and Brian have felt that we did comedy and entertainment for folks that were already revolutionary, for people that knew that we weren't going to pick on the homeless and then we weren't going to pick on women and then we weren't going to go after people for their sexual identity. We kind of made like a part of our humor and kind of the world that we think that everybody should live in, like this revolutionary atmosphere. And so like I think that what you have to find out for yourself is that if you do go and volunteer, if you do 60 minutes a week, just like going to church, just like paying your tithes, if you do 60 minutes of like Planned Parenthood or Meals on Wheels or Food Not Bombs, those type of like in real life activities pay off in dividends. And like that's what we've been telling people is that you can enjoy our show and have a great time with it, but like you can even get even more out of life if you go out on a limb and try to advocate for good, because otherwise you're just doing Netflix and chill, or you're playing Switch, or you're doing whatever it is and you're wasting all this time. And once you have it together in your life where you're able to lend an extra hand to other people, I think that it's selfish in a way, but it does also assist folks. Like that is like I think that's the conceit of the show, is that like it's really fun to be contrarian and dismissive. It's even better to fucking live it. It's even better to be out loud about it wherever I go, and to be revolutionary and to advocate for the liberation of, working people in all my interactions. Brian and I, we are in a very privileged position where we can be out loud drug users, we can be out loud uh, you know, socialists and communists and anarchists and all that stuff. And we really do want to run with that and create like some sort of phenomenon and try to create a wave that people can jump on, because I think it will benefit us all in the long run, you know.
Um, we're close to wrapping up, but I want to ask Kenny the same question. I don't know if you need
Mhm.
me to repeat it, but the whole thing about whether we need to out entertain, like the balance between out entertaining or trying to be. I mean, I think we kind of already kind of have. A,
Yeah, I
I think
mean,
with the
it just depends. Like we're not. I mean, well, I'm gonna tell you this, T, but me, you, and Mario, we're not trying to be somebody that we're not. This is just how I am, you know.
yeah.
And I think that's where people got it twisted when I was on Twitter. They was like, "This motherfucker's crazy." No, I'm not crazy. It's just I just see things a certain kind of way, and then I just speak on a certain kind of way. Now, of course, there's a line you don't want to cross. You know what I mean? But I don't think that you have to out entertain like the mainstream. You know what I mean? Because you're going to do that by being unique anyway, because the
Yeah,
mainstream is performative.
they
You know what
have
I
to
mean?
catch
It's
up to
not,
us. I mean, they're
yeah.
they're
They don't,
copying. I mean, there's a boardroom full of people that are like, "Hey, there's this really like cutting edge show called the Champagne
yes.
Sharks. We have to figure out how to make it work for our fucking show on NBC or ABC or what." Like people are trying to crib what we're doing, but they can't ever be as raw and real as we are.
I'll give you a perfect example. When's the last time you saw a Nike basketball commercial or Air Jordan commercial? You don't see them anymore. The
I
reason why is because they tapped into what, so yeah, they tapped into social media and they said, "Oh, what are kids doing? Oh, they like that rapper, Travis Scott. Okay, we'll just put the shoes on his feet and then people will buy them." You know what I mean?
yeah,
They don't have to do that anymore. They found what people like and then they just attach to it. So they'll check out. I mean, look at all the podcasts that are popular, like Desus and Mero, and then Joe Budden's podcast and all that kind of stuff. Like nobody really cares about what they're saying. They care
A
about
lot of
their
people,
popularity.
yeah, a lot of people watch them, but it's kind of ephemeral. Like you're not going to talk about anything
No,
on those shows a week after they air.
it
Like
is.
no.
And we are like you're challenging a lot of stuff that isn't comfortable, like for people. They don't want to they really want to brush over these type of things. We have friends in our life that I've been friends with them for a decade or more. Like I knew them when they were hustling and working as a dish tanker and shit, and now they're doing way better in their life. And it's hard to kind of square away what we're doing and like the politics and ethics of our lives versus wanting to succeed and just have some comfortability and shit. It's really hard to reach
Hmm.
people in a way that is compelling and breaks through all of that, when like people just, the status quo is way easier to pay attention to than to break free. Because like I was saying earlier, it's all mystery. When you get into what we're doing, it's
Yep.
all mystery. You just have to be comfortable on your own. You have to be like, you can't have something, you can't have an opinion prescribed to you. You can't have like as much as I'm putting media out there for people, I'm also saying to them, do not trust what I say. Please double check
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
that
yeah,
I
yeah,
say.
yeah,
Like
yeah, definitely.
this is beyond, this is
a lot of
beyond.
people want a cult of personality. A lot of people want that. I mean, people
Oh
We
both
yeah,
have it. I
but
mean,
both audiences and people who do this. There's a lot of people who want people to kiss their ass and worship them. And I think it's better to not be that way. But there's people who want.
I want to be, I want to be disruptive. I still want to be disruptive. Like I'm actually, tomorrow I'm closing on a new house that I'm buying. I
oh
still
nice.
only
Congratulations.
I make $30,000 a year doing the podcast, but my wife is very successful, and we're buying a house and moving up on the chain, I guess. But also at the same time, like not really bawling or asking for anything more than just like groceries and a roof over my head. And I feel like we challenge the status quo of like celebrity and all of that when we're willing to be so honest and open and talk to people at a level that like from the beginning when we decided to start this show was like, I'm not going to tell people to buy a beer for a paycheck because I don't fucking like Miller Lite, you know, and I don't agree with the
Right.
way that they do their products or the way they pay their people. I don't like that fucking beer. I'm not going to sell shit for people. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be at the whim of the status quo. And, you know, it's really odd to like to ride the line of that like next level revolutionary, like pushing the envelope type speak, but also trying to make sure that like all my affairs in order so that I can be comfortable to put out the best possible content, you know?
I mean, one of the last things I'll say is like,
But it is all like it
mhm,
is all what like you said before, it is really all to only out entertain those motherfuckers. Like
yeah.
they look
Mhm.
pathetic to me. Stefan Molyneux has a video coming out right now where he's begging people to ask YouTube to keep his channel around. And it's like
Because he's
you're a
unemployable. He thinks he's
right,
unemployable.
right.
But that
He's
was your
like,
choice.
no
Why
one will
did you?
hire me. You're a
Yeah.
loser, bro.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what? If Patreon fires me, I could put I could put my phone number out there and text a whole bunch of people and be taken care of. Like you're
Right.
lazy. Like they're lazy and they're entitled and they're basically just doing the old school stuff and expecting to be rewarded for it. And we are really treading a path that like I still don't have any understanding of. Like I just told y'all at the beginning of this show, I started back 10 years ago in 2009, and I desperately want this to be something that even changes up what I do in my day-to-day life. You know, like I desperately want more working people to advocate for themselves and create a different existence than what we had when I started.
Yeah, I think what you have to do is entertain people, but not make entertaining the end goal. Because some people, they just come in and that must be the end goal. I think you have to entertain people into seriousness at
Yeah.
some point. Like you must have to
I
lean
think I think
into it to get them through to the other side. But I think a lot of people just want to lean into it harder and harder. Like like
I mean, I really do think, you know, what we've done with our show is earnestness kills all of that ironic shit. You know,
yeah,
I was a teenager that told ironic fucking jokes all the goddamn time, you know, about all the racist and homophobic shit that you could ever think of. And it's very cheap and easy to do. And I feel like there's like a lot of nerdy people that never were fucking young, edgy bullies when they were
yeah.
younger. And this kind of stuff sounds like really silly and out there and all of that. But
And also some
like,
people who never get out of it too. Those are two things: people who've never been in it, and people who never get out of it. Yeah,
yes, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. They just want to keep it, you know, new people get cycled in for them. And I you know, I think that like grabbing it all by the horns and being grabbing the wheel and directing in my life in a way that makes me feel fulfilled and trying to get other people to do that is way better than being the fucking funniest person around because it's very cheap. I know what's there. It's all low hanging fruit. It's
yeah,
the jokes are right there in front of me, and like
yeah.
any quick-witted person sees them. Like,
You see it with the 50-year-old like Opie and Anthony and Legion of Skanks crowd who are still
yeah,
into who can say the most edgy stuff. It's like, dude, you're like 50. Like you gotta move past that.
right. I mean, you can say something wild. You can say something horrible about women. Like anybody could do that. Like what do you
Right.
do? What are
It's
you
been done.
accomplishing here?
It's
Right.
it's amateur hour.
Um,
And
the, they go on.
you know, I mean, like the progression of what we do and performing in front of live crowds and seeing people that come out to our shows, they aren't your typical comedy crowds, but they desperately want to be entertained and they want to go to a place and be entertained where the person on stage isn't picking on every single person below them, you know. And it's like that's where it comes back to like feeling cynical or feeling like I'm just doing sales all day, and that like I really care about creating content that applies to everybody and that in general most people can listen to, and that it's not going to affect you based upon your demographics. And drilling down into that stuff really does get excellent results, and the people that you meet along the way are, leaving their house for the first time in a fucking month. Some of them, besides work, they're going to work all day long, and they want to come see a place where they're not going to feel bad or feel pointed out or othered for who they are. Like we are very much, we know the SJW rhetoric. We know the right way to think. Like, like I was saying, Brian has studied all that stuff. We talked about
One
it.
thing I say about you on your Instagram, you put up a picture of Bell Hooks book that you were reading, right?
Yes.
And that wasn't a bit. Like a lot of people, if they put up a Bell Hooks book, that would have been like a bit. But you were honestly saying, and at first I almost thought it was a bit, but you were like, no, I just like this book, and a lot of people in this space wouldn't do that.
Well, I mean, honestly, it goes back to the thing I said about Nina Simone, where it's like, you don't know where It Bees That Way came from. I know a lot of irony people out there that use bell hooks as like a shorthand for someone that's too woke. But until you've read her, you can't do that. I don't think that you don't have it. Like, I can make the jokes now because I've read it. Like, I've cried, literally going to therapy and hitting a huge dab and reading bell hooks really changed my opinion about masculinity and myself. And I don't think people are going through that transformational process. When I'm making the jokes, it comes from real world experience. It's not just trying to like win points or anything. Like, I think that stuff is like, if you earn it, like if you've read the books, like go ahead and make the joke. But I don't think people are doing that.
Let me ask you guys one last question. I hope this doesn't turn into like opening up a whole can of worms, because we're good for that. For the last question, opening a can of worms. But Kenny's never seen your show, right? I told him, come on, you gotta meet this guy. This guy's really cool. But Kenny, a lot of their show, right? And we had this kind of discussion with Bill Fletcher, where we're talking about how do you get socialism to connect with a lot of regular like black folk in the hood and stuff, and that stuff. And like a lot of street fight is just people talking about shitty blue collar jobs and sharing stories about it. And you hear stories from people calling in, and it's like you just remember like the shittiest job you had. And it's like, don't be ashamed, just talk about the stuff that you're embarrassed to talk about. And one thing that frustrates me is like, if you've ever been a black person and had a fucked up blue collar job, and you hear stories that a lot of white people talk about with their fucked up blue collar jobs, there's a lot of overlap. But when you go online and look at the discourse, they just make it seem like white blue collar people and black blue collar people are just on two different planets. And
I mean,
if I was
shit,
to,
dude.
if I was to give
The
a
Wire, I mean, look at your neighborhood garbage man, sanitary workers. They both have the same shitty job. It just depends. I mean, it just depends on where you live. I mean, go to your nearest construction site.
Yeah, I mean, for real. When I lived in Dallas, Texas, and that place is so fucking segregated. I mean, the South Side belongs to black folks, and like everybody else doesn't go there. And then they make up a lot of the service working positions. And like, I mean, I'm not like that. That's the line I'm trying to ride, where I'm like, I don't want to point it out, but like when I'm going to these places, the folks that are loading the groceries into my car, the people that are checking me out, these are fucking black folks. Those are the ones that are doing the jobs for us. Why are we ignoring, the segregation that's still going on? Why is this not like a part of the conversation? And at the same time, I also I don't want to point that out. I really just am also trying to connect with people in that wavelength and not try to gain points or count the races that listen to my show or anything. It's very hard to navigate that situation. And that's, you nailed it. It's like what we found is just talking about working life is enough to get everybody to get involved with our show.
And what happens in people's personal lives is one thing, but when you're actually on the job and seeing people do the work, that don't have nothing to do with race. But in their personal lives, they might feel a certain way about somebody or whatever. But I mean, you go to your local post office, you go to the fireman department, the police department, the EMT workers, the sanitation workers, teachers. You know what I'm saying? When you talk to people that are doing this kind of work, that really a lot of those jobs, they sound really, especially like a teacher. Yeah, it sounds like a great job. They don't get paid shit. You know what I'm saying? And they all have the same problems going on with the job. They all go through the same grind. You know what I mean? So yeah, when it comes to blue collar and stuff like that, I mean, even if you really want to go further, you can even talk about people in the corporate level. I mean, they all have to
Yeah,
eat shit eventually. You
Absolutely.
know?
because that gig economy is trickling upward, and
Yeah.
and what I think is good about your show, to close it out, which is what I because you were asking about criticisms of the white left, like you don't go there and lecture black people or brown people or whatever people about how their problems aren't real. You just talk about the blue collar existence, but you don't have to
Yeah.
like this. This is what happens a lot of times. I find with the white left is that they feel like the way they act like first off that black people are the ones who don't want to get together with the white working class, where traditionally in this country it's been like the white working class that has kept them out of the
Yeah,
loop
because
with
that's what they created
Dude,
you.
unions and black people couldn't get involved.
I mean, dude, like the black community here has constantly been organizing. Like in every fucking city you go to, they've constantly been organizing because they're fighting for their fucking lives there.
Yeah,
It's not a hobby. It's not like something to do after work. It's like the organizations that we have here are deeply rooted and are there for a very long time. And it's like the we have to just work alongside of that instead of like there's no wooing. We don't need to woo people
yeah,
to our side.
but
There's
but
already
but
people that are
but,
way more
but
radical than what we
but
are.
also like this idea that the way I'm going to woo them is first act like they're the bottleneck, but then I'm going to woo them by telling them why why wokeness is bad, and what I'm reducing to wokeness is just basic talking about racism. Like
Right.
there's this thing where a lot of people on the white left want to alienate by saying, "Hey, a big part of this working class solidarity, which we're painting you as the obstacle to, is to admit racism is not real." And it's like you don't have to minimize other people's um realities with racism to sell working class connection. Just talk about working class stuff without saying, it's one or the other. Like to talk about this working class similarity, I have to make sure that I'm going to beat into your brain that racism is not real. I'm going to lecture you about Adolf Reed and give you 10 Adolf Reed articles. Just talk about being working class and people will come. Like people will
Yeah.
connect. Talk about it
Yeah.
without invalidating anyone else's experience. Don't lecture them about why their experience, like don't gaslight them,
Yeah.
about
Yeah. I
why
mean,
sexism is not real, why racism is not real, in order to get them on board with your working classness.
as a joke, I consider it selfish, but it really does come down to like getting everybody to like our show. Like I never wanted to turn an audience off. I wanted to make sure that I did the widest reaching thing as possible because like I feel like we have turned away from that. All of the status quo television, the Modern Family TV shows or whatever, they all are like these like affluent people. They have really buried the regular paycheck to paycheck existence that most people are on, you know?
Shit, even the poor people are affluent. Like for example, Friends was supposed to be broke and struggling, and those are the two best Manhattan apartments I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Even for the '90s, even for the '90s, like I'm like these people are broke. That's a starving actor and a waitress and a barista. Like even pre-gentrification in Manhattan, you weren't getting that shit. Like
Yeah,
fuck that.
we've moved so far from that discussion and like that is where more than anything like I really want to activate and make the working people feel confident and comfortable and know that they are chipping in and like providing a lot and they deserve to advocate for themselves and I think that like moving things in that direction is really all I'm trying to do is to get like more working people to advocate for themselves.
And the last thing I'll say is, and I'll let Kenny finish. I was gonna say is, just because it's two white guys, if you're thinking it's going to be one of these snarky, ironic, irony podcasts, I would tell you to give Street Fight a try because I'm telling you, I'm talking about if you're someone who's not white and is thinking is this going to be another like nonstop joke fest, it's
Mm-hmm.
some real blue collar, like straight up talking about like getting your existence together week to week type shit like that you can really connect to. And I really
Right.
want more people, not that you need our help, you're doing pretty good, but uh definitely check it out. And I'm saying that to our black listeners too. I really want people to go check it out because I think you're probably one of the podcasts that have the best chance of creating this kind of black white working class, we can both talk about the same shit without invalidating each other type of thing that I think a lot of these um other white socialists are not going to do, with making people read Adolf Reed or telling people that racism is not as real a problem as they think it is, etc. Yeah. And Kenny, do you have any final thoughts?
No, no, I don't have any final thoughts.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
it's a matter of like, like I'm not trying to get any sort of rewards for anything that I do, but I'm just somebody that like when I know it's real, when I know it's the truth, like, when it comes to like the oppression of people in the United States, like it's something I can't deny. Like it went from a very early age. What started Street Fight was just that people are getting a raw deal, and I know them and I work with them and like they're my friends, and like we have to all talk about this stuff. So like I like the show is, it definitely keeps food in my mouth and make sure that I have an entertainment budget for myself and I can go see a movie with my daughter. But it really is about like just creating a larger community of people that like that can bridge these gaps and do it in a way that isn't so performative, or that isn't, isn't anything that gains any sort of kudos or points or anything like that. Like I'm very gracious to be where we're at. And I mean, you're one of my favorite people in New York, like
Ah, thank you.
I love coming talking to
Ken,
you.
Kenny, we did a live show together in our in Brooklyn. It
Oh,
was,
really?
yeah, it was pretty
Yeah,
good. It was even scripted and everything, man. It was
was.
yeah.
It was
There
entertaining.
was wrestling. There was all types of, it was pretty fun, man. Yeah, so for sure. I'm telling you,
I
if you
you
do a
know
show, if you do a show in Portland, look up Kenny, man. Kenny's out in
Oh,
Portland.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I would love. Yeah, I mean, we were out there earlier this year. We'll be out later in the month. I would love. Or
Oh,
sorry,
shit.
later in
Are you serious?
2020. I'm sorry. We'll be here in like
Okay.
probably early fall. We'll be in Portland. I'll hit you
Oh,
up.
yeah. Get a hold of me, definitely.
But like I think that um there is plenty of reason to give up and to think that we will never win, or that that things will never change. But there's a lot of connection and cross pollination that comes with like these online communities that I feel like, you know people are advocating for the right things. And I think that we have seen an uprising in a lot of hateful, fucking horrible people, but they have been outnumbered by 100 times by the folks that are against all that shit.
Yeah, and I will say I like that you actually care about how a lot of that performative digital blackface looks, because that's something a lot of people won't even bother to say. But
I
last thing I'll say, because
I'll keep
um,
going, man. I could
yeah,
go
yeah,
into
yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 because I don't want people to be like, okay, guys, enough. But I just want to say, go to patreon.com/champagne sharks, subscribe $5 a month, support the show, follow, subscribe. Because I forgot to say this stuff up top. Follow and subscribe, like the YouTube. So hit that follow button, hit that bell. What's everything they say, Ken? I should know by watching so much YouTube.
Hate, comment, or subscribe.
Yeah, hate, comment,
That's what they
subscribe.
always say. Hate, comment, or subscribe.
Shout out to Boxing Ego. He says that. Yeah, hate, comment, or subscribe. Like it, follow. Go to Patreon and become a subscriber to Street Fight. I'm a patron of Street Fight. I put my money where my mouth is. You can go to my Patreon and look, because it's my subscriptions are public, so you'll know
With
I'm putting
receipts.
my yeah. So yeah, give them a try. You can't follow Kenny anywhere. He's off social media, but
Love it.
Yeah,
I'm jelly.
nowhere to be found. I'm done.
All right, everybody, have a good night.
Thanks for joining. Peace.
All right, peace.